And to that piece of lieutenant that's always on his podcast, bash us, him.
Attention. What's up, everybody? Good morning. Thanks for joining. Finding some Unfiltered. Eric Dim's not going to be with us this morning. He's filming season of Lost and Alone in the Alaskan Woods, naked, and how to survive naked in the Alaskan Woods. So he's going to be, but he'll be back on Monday. All right. So he's going to be out today. But Marlon, what's up, brother?
Hey, morning, John. Morning, chat. Hope everyone's doing well today. Yeah, it looks like it's going to be a nice day here in New York. But we had an interesting week of content on this network, and a lot of great shows, a lot of great guests, and I think we had a lot of good info to share with the public, and I'm hoping that we finish strong today with another great discussion.
Yeah, so we're going to get into the federal takeover of Washington, D.C., particularly like centered around the Metropolitan PD and what's happening, right? So for those of you guys that aren't familiar, Trump institutes Article 740 of the Home Rule Act of Columbia of 1973. So when we talk about Washington, D.C., it's a lot different, or the District of Columbia, right? That's what it is. When we talk about that, it's a lot different than a New York City or a Chicago. It's a completely different governmental setup. 1973, prior to 1973, Congress and the president controlled Washington, D.C., right? Nixon comes in. Nixon's like, let's institute this home rule and basically give them sovereignty. We'll have a mayor and a 13-member city council run Washington, D.C. That's how he institutes the Home Rule Act. But there's a clause in there, line 740, that if for some reason under an emergency, the president and Congress could retake control of Washington, D.C. Now, they could take control for up to 48 hours. With the approval of Congress, it could go past 30. It could go to 30 days. Then to keep it going past the 30 days, if they want to institute this past the 30 days, they need approvals in both the House and the Senate for this to go even further. So that's the Home Rule Act summed up, right? So what's your thoughts initially? Why DC? And what do you think about it?
Yeah, I gotta say I'm still a little dumbfounded by it. The whole suddenness of the thing is got me like a little confused. We all knew that there's a lot going on in DC with the crime and with the drugs and with in particularly the carjackings. There've been a lot of those, but it seemed like literally overnight this decision was made, and it strikes me as very curious that it was made. Now the situation in New York is very different because, like John said, Washington D.C. is a district, but with what's going on in New York City and other places like Chicago and St. Louis, you have to wonder if by the way, Trump also, he kind of alluded to it, but you have to wonder if similar plans aren't being made. It's very curious, and I don't know what to think of it, and I just can't see this as being some sort of long-term plan, meaning that it's the solution to all the problems in those cities.
No, I agree. Like when I look at it on its face, one, I'm like, oh, why are you going into Washington, D.C.? Crime's down, just like it is in Chicago and New York City, right? And we've all accepted this, and the newspapers basically have co-opted this complete lie that crime's down in all of these major Democratic cities. Crime's down across the board. It's like, oh yeah, okay. But when I look at it on its face, it's like, okay, so obviously all the calls that crime's down is a lie, right? The president of the Metro PD union comes out and says that all of their reports are being altered. So he has a larger pair of balls than the rest of the NYPD unions, because that's happening across the NYPD. And those guys aren't saying nothing except for Eric Adams doing a great job. I'm going to endorse you, sir. Here's your fresh cold water. So and I'm sure that's what's happening in Chicago, and that's what's happening in LA, and that's what's happening in Baltimore, and that's what's happening in Newark. I'm positive. I'm not even there, but I see the playbook across the country. So like when I'm looking at that, I'm sitting there and I'm saying, why DC? And I agree with you. And I think why DC is because you can do it. You can come in and it could be a talking point, and it could be something to garner media attention, something that you could do immediately to garner media attention, to campaign around, to show, to get basically good media on your side around it. Now, but also when I look at it, I really have to correlate it to Roosevelt Avenue in New York City, right? Because we criticized the hell out of Kaz Daughtry for his Roosevelt Avenue multi-agency operation. When I look at Washington, D.C., and I look at this takeover, and I look at FBI guys, and I look at ATF guys, and I look at Homeland guys partnering with Metro PD, and they're basically walking the streets and doing impact. That's what they're doing. They're doing impact. I'm saying long term, in the immediate, you will see a large drop in crime in the areas where those resources are deployed. Now, Washington, D.C. is a very small town, right? So you could actually displace crime out of the entire 10-mile radius of Washington, D.C. But is it a long-term solution? And I don't think so.
Yeah, and to that, it's very different. Like being a street cop or being a patrol cop is very different from being a Fed, And for we know they're walking basically foot posts in DC right now, but I have to wonder again, like how much of a difference can that really make? Like you said, but to displace crime to the blocks or the neighborhoods outside of the radius that they're covering right now, it as a solution. We've talked about this many times that Trump needs to have sweeping indictments. He basically needs to have a sweeping public corruption initiative, and that would put pressure on states and local municipalities to kind of clean house and get their ships back on track. That to me would be the best solution, and the best long-term solution, because again, like we've said many times on the show, the problems with like the NYPD and the city of New York are systematic. They're all the reason I personally keep saying, like, all the cases that we've mentioned on here, all the issues of corruption from the cash for booty to to even the latest incidents with Faison and even as Sal mentioned yesterday, Taylor. All these incidents are all related because it's all related to the cronyism and the systematic corruption that's entwined in the system right now. So in order to fix, if you like discipline one chief, and you don't solve the overall problem, it's going to pop up again. It won't be Faison flying around flying around a helicopter wherever he feels like it tomorrow, but it'll be some other chief doing some other impropriety, So the point is that you have to get to the heart of the matter in order to solve the issue once and for all. So when you put federal agents who are investigators on into foot posts, something that they most of them are unfamiliar with, unless they were cops themselves before they became a Fed, I can't see how you're going to solve the problem long term. Okay, the problem isn't just that DC is short of manpower. The problem is that you have the politicians in DC and the power structure in DC doesn't want that they're very liberal, and they're very lax on punishment and responsibilities for the criminals, for the perps who commit these crimes. So it's gonna keep happening. It's not solving the issue. The issue is you have to get to the heart of what's causing these cities to get to where they are.
No, I agree with you. I think first of all, they're basically arresting people for impact crimes, right? Like drinking, smoking in the street, being rowdy, disorderly conduct. So there's really no long-term prosecution that's going to come out of this. And even if they somehow make a big arrest, I'd question if the DAs in DC are actually going to draw that case up, or how far that case is going to go through the judiciary. So that's one, right? Like I think we have to all be realistic about that. It's like, when I'm seeing, like, there's a lot of videos out there of like all these agents walking through the streets. And, I'm not going to lie, like they look like one-day rookies to me, because like you're saying, they never really did it. It's kind of awkward. You're standing out there, you're on the city streets, you're going to face ridicule that you've never had before. You're going to deal with encounters that you never dealt with before. You're dealing with a lot of low-level things where traditionally, feds are operating on probable cause almost the entirety of the time. Policing is a lot more nuanced than that. Police work, I really, truly believe, is one of the most intricate, nuanced professions in the world. You almost have to be a surgeon, and you could see the uncomfortability. Now, that'll break within, a couple of days. They'll become more comfortable on the street. They'll become more comfortable with dealing with the public. However, the other thing I concern myself with is what's going to happen when an incident goes bad. These guys are walking around. They have no body cameras on them. They don't know the way those Metro PD and the pressure Metro PD is under, and how they've been policing these last years. Now, if Trump's saying, I don't care about any of that crap, we're going to go in, we're going to police. Okay, I get it. But again, for how long are you doing it for? And what's happening? You're displacing the crime. What happens with the void when you guys leave? Guess what? It all comes right back. It sucks right back in. So long term, to me, before I even did the corruption sweep, because that's very involved and very intricate, as things arise, 100%, I would be removing people. I would be arresting people and charging people. As corruption allegations arise, as corruption investigations have met probable cause, I wouldn't be turning a blind eye to corruption. But I don't know how deep and involved I'd go. What I would really be doing is ensuring that this crime data reporting is accurate across the country. I would be ensuring that police departments across this country are accurately reporting crime data. And it's a very simple way to do it. Just call 911. Have a federal agent report a crime. See how he's treated. Have a federal agent walk into an NYPD precinct. See how he's treated. See what you alleged versus what is taken. Talk to people who have had complaint reports, and you could read some obvious complaint reports and go through them and say, wait, that was a felony assault. Why is that just a misdemeanor assault? Wait, that was a grand larceny. Wait, why did all the shooting incidents drop immediately upon all the shot spotters being pulled down? And so I think that before we could fix any of the problems within the precincts, we have to understand the problems that we're having in the city. We have to understand the crime that we're taking in the city, the criminal patterns, the gangs, right? If someone's getting robbed and we're documenting it as lost property, we don't have any robbery pattern. We don't know that there's a group out there on mopeds robbing people and doing chain snatches, So I think that's where I would focus if I was him. I would go right in. I'm 100% with you on the corruption. And I'd also have a huge, heavy emphasis on crime reporting. And right now, while you're in DC, I would be gathering that information as well. What happens when you call the police? What do they do? And because clearly that data is being manipulated, and it's being manipulated to electioneer. Look, the Democrat, what did Eric Adams say? Eric Adams said, Democrats have a great public safety product. They just don't present it well. So what's the Democrat public safty product? Let's just lie about crime, because that's what they're doing across the country. It's very obvious.
Well, yeah. I've always said that if the Democrats really looked at the issues surrounding crime and what causes crime, it comes back to the Democrat policies, progressive policies, policies that destroy families and destroy communities, and then replace replace fathers with big government. But those questions about crime stats has come up in you mentioned Chicago in the last go around. They have come up in Chicago, where they had supposedly had an 18% decline in violent crime this year, but that's all questionable. So going back to public corruption, I actually think it'd be pretty simple if they simply targeted the state DAs, now the state attorney generals, rather. I mean, look at the case of Letitia James. There's more than enough on her for them to look at. And though we've heard that there's been word that she's under investigation regarding her civil case against Trump, there's more than enough allegations against her for them to do for them to actually put pressure on her to clean up her act. But we're not seeing that, which again confuses me. I think if the DOJ put pressure on the state attorney generals, that pressure would either they would remove them, or that would trickle down, and it would cause the ship to it would force them to right the ship, And I think I maybe it's just me being a little cynical, but when I see all these guys walking footposts in DC, I'm thinking, wouldn't it be better to have them in an office, kind of speaking to precinct commanding officers and finding out who the recidivists and the problem people in the communities, and trying to run a takedown on them, or trying to run a conspiracy cases against the gang members. To me, that seems like it'd be more productive for federal resources than to have 8 guys walking in a footpost as though they're rookies again. We don't even, over here in New York, if you have eight rookies walking a footpost, I think the CEO or the bosses are gonna have a real problem with that. But over there, we see eight experienced senior federal investigators walking a footpost, and there's in areas where you don't see anybody on the street. So I look at that. Maybe it's just me being cynical, but I'm looking at that is that a show? Is that really a show? Because I can't see it doing anything productive. And again, I think you got investigators with access to federal databases and resources. Okay, why aren't those investigators doing what they're trained to do, which is be investigators?
No, I think it's a fair point, and I think that's my. But when I look at it, and I hope I'm wrong, but I don't think I am. When I look at it, when I look at the takeover, I'm saying, well, it's nice. People are going to celebrate it because you almost feel liberated and free. I'm gonna play this video real quick before I finish my thought. Listen to what this woman's saying. Washington D.C. resident. Listen up.
Finally able to chill at a red light with my window down, not worried about if one of them young niggas is coming. Ride through the city, feeling more safe than I ever felt.
So there you go. She's talking about that doesn't feel safe driving through Washington, D.C. But now she does, because there's an influx of federal agent, park police, cops, and they're all foot patrolling. But what happens the minute they leave? Guess what? You ain't going to be rolling through the hood with your windows down no more. And so when I look at it as the same way I look at Roosevelt Avenue. Exactly what happened. We went in there. We had a multi task force response to it. It's not a long-term solution. Temporarily displace crime out of Roosevelt Avenue. We go around, we make a lot of social media videos around it. Rah, rah, rah. Look what I did. Look what the NYPD did. Look what the state troopers did. Look what all these people did. Blah, 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 blah. And 30 days after they're gone, not only is the crime back, but it's worse than it was prior to them doing it, because at the end of the day, people that are committing crime are a lot smarter than people that are watching the news. They're a lot smarter, dude. They know the feel of the street. They're like, they ain't coming back here. That was over. That's it. It's over. Don't worry about it. Nothing's happening. Let's go back to business. When they start to see the pickup of presence and the cameras, and they start to see Kaz Daughtry and John Shell doing walkthroughs with the media. All right, let's get out of here for a few months. Block's hot, right? And they just move it. And that's what's happening in D.C. right now. You're not preventing crime. You're displacing it. You're not solving crime. You're not stopping crime. You're just displacing it. And I keep telling everybody, I was like, I want to see in 30 days what happened. First, I want to see in 30 days, does he get an approval to go further? I don't think that he does. I don't think he gets this past the House and the Senate in 30 days, because it is a large drain of resources. These investigators should be doing their job, what they're getting paid to do. They shouldn't be walking footposts like one-day-old rookies, to me, it appears to be a dog and pony show. I hate to say it, but it does. And like, if we see a crime decrease for 30 days and then it ends and you come back in another 30 days and crime's back, did we really do anything? Did we really do anything? Was that effective? Is that something we should be duplicating throughout the country? And I don't think so. I think we need. My thing with Democrats and Republicans, both, is they have no long-term solutions. There's no, it's always, I just want to get my face out in front of the camera. I just want to show that I did something. And I'm always like, I don't just do anything. Do something that's effective. Do something that has long-term results. Do something, you plant a seed that you could sit in the shade, that people will sit in the shade of that tree years later, right? You plant the seed and you water it. Instead, what they wanted to do is just throw up this tent that's going to blow away in the wind. And no, look how shaded you are and how safe you are. And then wind comes and you're like, oh yeah, that was all fake. There weren't any real long-term solutions. And so when I'm looking at it, I don't really see a long-term solution for it. And then the other thing, like when he made mention to New York City and to Chicago, it's like, all right, you have the precedent for DC. I get it. But are you really going to do that in New York and Chicago? And could you really do that in New York and Chicago? Or is that a grave constitutional injustice over states' rights? Like, yeah, and again, I go back to what I was saying on that video that I put out. You might be happy when Trump's doing it. What about if AOC does it? What about if there's another pandemic and they need to do this to ensure you're all wearing masks or you're all vaccinated? Right? You're going to be happy about it? Because I'm not going to be happy about it. So when I hold Democrats accountable, I hold Republicans accountable for the same things that I talk about. I wasn't for the federalization of the police under Barack Obama, and I'm not for the federalization under the police under Donald Trump for that exact issue, because you might have a good president one day and you might have a friendly Congress one day, and the next day you got a terrible president and you got a far left controlled Congress. So I'm for, let us follow the Constitution. I don't care if you're a Republican or a Democrat. Follow the Constitution and give us long-term solutions. Stop with the games.
Yeah. Remember when conservatives were talking about Obama federalizing police and the dangers of Democrats doing it? And now a lot of them are openly begging Trump to actually do this. And they've been here in New York, I can name some city council people that have been begging for the feds to come here. But the thing is, like, it's not just Roosevelt Avenue, but in New York City, I noticed Kaz put up a video a couple of days ago about Canal Street, and it seemed like the khaki pants guys are back there, or I don't know what they're calling them now. I saw a couple of them wearing the response, chief of department response unit on the back of it. So, but whatever, they're still the khaki pants wearing team. They were back on Canal Street, and you could see them loading counterfeit vendor products into the back of a truck. And this would have been at least the third time in a year that Kaz has been on Canal Street trying to clean up the illegal vendors. So again, it's no long-term solution. And I'm a big fan of having, like, just having ending problems. I don't like when problems get dragged on, and you have to continuously revisit those same problems and piecemeal solve it. And that's what's been going on in New York City for the Adams term in office. It's been piecemeal. We're here in Roosevelt Avenue for 3 months. We're here in Canal Street 2 times this week, and we'll be back again. But we're not solving any problems. And again, DC reminds me of that right now. What I don't understand is, I would rather have those guys, even if it was temporary, I would rather have them drive around in unmarks and start pulling over people, because at least the perps would then think twice when these guys are gone, wondering whether they're still riding around in an unmarked area, rather than have them 8 guys walking around on a foot post again. And the other thing that I don't get here is that if Trump really wants to clean up DC, I don't understand why, again, that these initiatives weren't made to clean up New York City first, because New York City is first of all, it's his home city, and again, as Eric mentioned, Times Square and Central Park are kind of leading indicators for where the city and where the country are headed. And what have we seen lately? Numerous shootings in Times Square. Times Square is one of the biggest tourist attractions in the country. Okay, think of it. When the ball drops. The videos are usually one of the first videos that are shown is New York City, where the ball drops. So if you have tourists that are scared of coming to New York City, it's a leading indicator of what is happening in this country. So again, I don't understand why Trump didn't. I'm not saying he should send troops to New York City. I'm saying why there hasn't been large scale initiatives to kind of prevent these to prevent New York City from going further down the road to the bad old days. And so again, what's going on in DC? I think unfortunately I have to say that as I'm seeing some of you say it in the chat, it looks like in fact it is a dog and pony show, and it doesn't solve the problems, and I find it also curious that it comes after about a month where the media was pressuring Trump about a certain billionaire who had a island in the Caribbean, and where a lot of illicit things were going on. So something to think about also.
Oh yeah, I mean, I could see it totally. A lot of people in here saying, "Oh, it's a distraction. It's this. It's listen." Whatever it is, I personally agree. I think it's a dog and pony show. I don't see any real long-term solution here. Sleepy Joe's saying, apparently they're making a bunch of gun collars, according to the press secretary. That's like saying, oh, yeah, the feds came and now all of a sudden the NYPD is making a bunch of gun collars. They always make a bunch of gun collars.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so now the feds are just attaching themselves to it. Like, oh, yeah, we're out there and they made that. It's like, yeah, dude, you were standing on a foot post with your thumb up your butt. You didn't know what you were doing. You looked scared and there was 7 of you. And it was just 2 of us making these gun collars. You know what I mean? Like, so, is it possible? Yeah, it is. But then let me ask you, do you think those collars are getting drawn up? Are they drawing them up federally or are they drawing them up locally? Because if they're drawing them up locally, feds operate a lot differently than police do. And we're under a lot more constraints than the feds. We understand how to obtain probable cause much greater. We understand case law much greater. So what happens? What's the long-term solution? How many people actually receive jail time as a result of those arrests? And really, was it the feds or was it just Metro PD pulling those guns off the street? I would question that. Here's a scene of a woman get arrested. It's pretty funny. I don't know what the arrest's for. I don't know, something to do with the way she was driving, but she's pulling into a checkpoint, surrounded by cops and feds. So you see, it's a huge resource. There's huge resources being spent for this.
She's black, man. That's all they need.
What is your name? Who can we call?
Leave our neighborhood. You're not wanted. And you're putting her in cuffs? You're putting her in handcuffs? You're putting her in handcuffs for a traffic stop? Shame! 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 Shame!
What is your name? Call for you.
You know it's fucked up.
Where's your warrant?
You know it's fucked up.
You know it's fucked up. You're a PC cop.
So you see what's happening, right? The feds are getting a little taste of what it's like to be a cop on the streets of Washington, D.C. This girl's getting arrested, but look at the resources. Look at who's arresting her. Look at who's doing all the work. It's the Metropolitan Police Department. The feds are just standing there with their thumbs up their butt. I mean, masked. Oh, nobody could see my face. Nobody can see my face. They could see your face though, because you're not a Fed. I'm a Fed. And that whole thing annoys me a little bit. I'm not going to get too deep into it, but to say that police officers aren't under the same threats as federal agents is just not accurate. And honestly, why do you have a mask on? It's 100 degrees outside. Like, what are you doing, dude? Are you that afraid? Maybe this isn't for you, bro. Maybe this shit's not for you, bro. Unless you do some type of undercover work, then I get it. And you're being temporarily, then I could understand it. But if you're not doing any undercover work, take that effing mask off your face.
Yeah, I have serious questions about all of this. I mean, that 4 foot tall girl isn't. Does she have a burner in the car? I mean, does this really? I'm very curious about why she's getting collared right now. Because I hope for us spending all those resources that there better be like some drugs in that car and a burner, because otherwise, to me, it's a waste. Okay, anybody could do that. These guys have lots of resources that could be very helpful, to a local precinct commander, and they should be they should be collaring the gangbangers and the stick up kids there, not someone for some traffic violation. That doesn't solve anything, and it's a complete waste of time for everyone. And again, look at what we're seeing here. There's like 5 feds and 1 cop here. Is this do we need this dog and pony show for that? I have serious misgivings about all of this and where and what this is all about.
No, yeah, I agree. Like, what all those, like, is she getting arrested for a suspended license? Not saying that she shouldn't, but like, what are we doing there? Chronicles of the Collapse asked, "Where's Eric today?" I told you guys earlier, so that means you're late to roll call. So we'll be docking you some pay.
Yeah, he's fighting a bear.
Eric's Naked in the Woods. He's filming a season of Naked in the Woods in Alaska. He'll be back on Monday, season 1. It's going to be Surviving the Wilderness. He'll be back on Monday. Another noticeable absence from the stream this whole week, Patrick Donahue. You guys should go check out Patrick Donahue's Facebook. I don't know where he is. He could be in Rikers. He could be in Alcatraz. We have no idea. He's posting cryptic photos, but he hasn't been available clearly. So go check out Pat Donahue's Facebook. Try to figure out where he is, because I haven't been able to. I went everything from Rikers to Camp Crystal Lake. So it's possible him and Eric are together. I don't know. He could also be filming a season of Naked in the Woods in Alaska. It's very possible. We're not sure. So we're trying to get we'll have them back both on Monday, hopefully.
Did Scott Monroe get to him?
Maybe Monroe got him.
He's locked up in the basement of what Pearl Street? What's the BA headquarters at again?
No, he's definitely surrounded by woods, and he's putting like just the meals that they're giving him, and it looks like school lunch. Looks like he's eating school lunch. You know. So there he is. There's Eric Dim. Eric, you're not supposed to have your phone out there in the woods. What are you doing, bro? You know. So but yeah, no, I totally agree. I think that you know, when you look at it, it really looks it looks even worse than what we're saying. You know what I mean? Because it's like, is it really, really effective? And I think what we're seeing is no, it's absolutely not effective. This is a real short term. This is a Roosevelt Avenue staged event. And yeah, Trump could do it there, and he exercised it. Great. Long-term solution, is this something to help clean up? Is this going to be something to help clean up the other cities? I don't think so, because I personally don't even think it's going to be that effective in Washington, D.C. You know, I know a lot of the Q people are all saying, no, this is part of a bigger plan. And, you know, Trump's getting ready to bring down the indictments, and, you know, they're getting ready for civil unrest because they're going to start locking up all the Russiagate people, and they took Obama's passport and they did all this stuff. And I was like, all right, bro, just call me in 30 days. Like, just call me in 30 days. Let me know when Obama leaves the country and he's in France next week, like, and that your theory goes out the window, dude, right? Or is it just that it's going to wait a couple more years, you know? Because you know, so I don't know, man. I'm not a huge fan of it. Like, I support it, but I support law enforcement. I support people having quality of life in their city. I support that woman who wants to drive around her city and not worried about getting carjacked. I support that, but can we give that to people in a long term? And I know that we can. And the problem is that our leadership in these big blue cities have done everything to decline that. And just another note, a lot of people on here are saying, well, it's never been proven that crime's being manipulated. We've proven it on the show over and over again. We showed proof that cannot be debunked, that crime statistics are being debunked. Well, Sam Antar has actually put out on White Collar Fraud, broken down how even they were manipulating homicides to tell you that homicides were down. And no one has tried to debunk that, not the NYPD or anybody, because that's exactly what they're doing. They're just ignoring the reporting, right? And the other thing, what you could say is, if crime is down, why is the quality of life eroded in all of these cities, and why don't people feel safe? This isn't like some weird thing that's happening. People don't feel safe in their cities, and the quality of life in all of these cities have greatly diminished. You know, I mean, and what is that a result of? If it's not a result of crime, it just happens. It's just this phenomena that comes in. Did the aliens come down and change the quality of life in New York City, Chicago, LA, and Washington, D.C.? I don't think so. You know what changed the quality of life of Washington, D.C.? Handcuffing the police, allowing perps to do whatever the hell they want, and holding people totally unaccountable. I mean, like, this isn't rocket science, people. It's just not. It's just not. We could give these these problems to third graders, and they could solve
them. Yeah, it's true. It's true. And you know, Tom in the chat, he says that it's similar to. Let me see if I can find it again. He says this is similar to what Kelly did with Blitz of Cops. Yeah, I can't find the exact quote, but I'm gonna say it's not quite the same, Tom, because the difference between this and like Impact Rookies is that the Impact Rookies, first of all, those rookies are from New York, okay, so they have more familiarity. Even if they're not from the city, they have more familiarity with New York than feds, because those feds are from all over the country. So, and they're doing something that they've never done before, which is they're walking on foot posts in a lot of neighborhoods that they probably haven't been to before. Okay, so it's not quite the same. And the other thing that happened during to help clean up the New York City in the 90s is that we had investigations. We had investigations, and we had units that weren't just that weren't just rookies on a foot post. So I don't think it's quite the same. And the thing I want to say is, just before we close out on that last on this portion, is that video again. I'm looking at that video and I'm like, so we have like six law enforcement officers there, 5 feds and 1 street cop. Did nobody tell these guys to, they got the lady on something, so get her in the car and get her out of there? But instead, we're having it's like a theater performance there. And now we have a crowd gathering, and the situation is getting riled up. The executive perspective has talked about this a couple times, how you got an arrest, you got PC, you got them in cuffs, you have everything you need. Get them in the car and get back to base. Okay, you don't need to be out there running a stage production and letting a crowd gather and tensions rile up. But instead we're seeing it here. That kind I just don't understand it. And you see even the local cop is just standing around there like, what's going on? Yeah. So again, I don't think that helps the situation. In fact, I think it just builds tension in a lot of these places where you don't need it. So I think that, again, there needs to be a long-term solution to all of this. And in order for America to get out of the in order for us to compete long-term with China, I've said this many times, that we're going to have to clean up a lot of this corruption, because when all this money comes to rebuild infrastructure, if these cities aren't cleaned up, all that money is going to go to waste. And yesterday, Trump announced a new plan to a new initiative where they're going to build nuclear plants all over the country. Okay, the reason why they're doing that is because the energy infrastructure of these regions of the country are going to need to be redone. And in order to get the energy they need, they're going to have to build those nuclear plants. So with that will come, they're going to have to fix some of the roads, fix some of the power grid in those cities. And again, when you have cities that, like New York City, that wastes money on all kinds of crap, and while at the same time crying out that they have a budget shortfall, and you have all this corruption going on, I can't see how any of that is going to be accomplished. Okay, so again, I think it's gone to the point now where it's a matter of the health of the country for corruption to be cleaned up in these blue cities. Okay. And we're just not seeing it with this. And this, like we said, is not a plan to do it. This is a show, and it's not productive.
It's a dog and pony show. That's it. I mean, we could just end it on that segment. It's I hope I'm wrong. I hope that in 30 days this is effective. But I just don't see this being any different from what I see out of the Adams administration, what I see out of Brandon Johnson, what I see out of LA. I just don't see it being any different at all or any more effective. This to me is Roosevelt Avenue on a bigger scale, using federal resources instead of just city and state. Like, that's all this is. It's a multi-agency operation. It's a large drain on resources. It's pulling people away from where they really should be. And it will have, in my opinion, zero long-term effect on public safety in Washington, D.C. Zero. Literally zero. And we'll see that within 30 days. Again, I don't believe that the Senate and the House will both pass this to extend it further. So, I mean, we only have 30 days to see what's going to happen, and we'll see it. And I think, it's Roosevelt Avenue. And I also, last point, I agree with you, Marlon. What's different about this than Impact is Impact actually was a long-term solution. You kept putting this new crop of young cops into these high crime neighborhoods and basically cleaning up these neighborhoods. And these are cops that are going to learn and grow in these neighborhoods and get and work with the DAs to clean up, and then work into understanding long-term prosecution and literally cleaning the streets up using broken window theories of policing. It was a multi-operational approach to public safety. While we were doing that under Impact, we had young kids going out doing broken windows theory, affecting the quality of life, while our long-term investigative units were out there focusing on gangs, focusing on drug gangs, focusing on the violent crime. You had the detectives solving the homicide. And so here, what we're doing, it's just a major focus on just the quality of life and having people be able to walk around, because we flooded the streets with cops. And I just don't think we're able to do that. And I don't think that we need to do that. I don't think that we need to flood every area with cops. I laugh. I go to some towns in Florida and they're gorgeous. There's no litter. People are out late on the streets at night. Restaurants are open. People are sitting on the streets at night, and I don't see a cop. And there'll be times I spend 2 or 3 days in these places, and I never seen a cop. And I'm like, I don't believe that we need to live in a totalitarian state to have public safety. You're just not going to get me to believe that. But I believe there needs to be a rule of law, because at the same time, I feel like if something got out of line, you call 911 there, guess what? You're going to be held accountable for your actions. And that's why people don't act up in red states traditionally. That's why you see, in these small towns, you see that they're beautiful. And by the way, when I say they're small town, I'm not saying that there's not a lot of people there. There's a ton of people. You know what I mean? There's 1 million people out. There's 1 million bars and restaurants. So I just think, we really need some long-term public safety solutions, and we're not getting it out of either the Republicans or the Democrats. So let's move on and let's go to more gaslighting. Right?
Before we move on, John, we didn't touch on the fact that they're creating a Pentagon reaction force for civil unrest.
Okay, yeah. Touch on that. I didn't see that, dude. If you could talk about that.
Yeah. So the news is that the Pentagon is creating a 600 force, 600 member, primarily National Guardsmen force called a domestic civil disturbance quick reaction force. And this force is going to be split amongst the East and West. The West is, I believe, they're going to be stationed in Arizona, and in the East, I think it's going to be Arkansas. But basically, they want them to be able to react to any rioting or any large disturbances nationwide within several hours. So I think that has been kind of lost in the conversation about what's going on in DC, because it literally the news happened the day after the feds took over DC, and I'm still trying to piece together what it exactly means. But again, it's not it's more piecemeal to the problem of what caused these riots, and if the plan is to prevent what happened in Minnesota with these guys, with this force, then it doesn't solve the problem of what caused Minnesota in the first place, and that is more related to government. And again, I think this does not solve the problem. And again, it's only 300 members in both the East and West, total of 600 guys. So if multiple cities are rioting, then like we saw during the Summer of Love in 2020, then this isn't part of this. Doesn't really. There's not enough National Guardsmen in this to solve the problem. So again, it's short-term thinking in this administration, and I just don't like any of it. I voted on Trump because I thought many of these issues have been ongoing for too long, and we need to solve them by getting to the heart of the problems in American society that causes it. And as we've said numerous times on this show, the problems in New York City with those Palestinian agitators, they should have been investigated. Okay, you can't, instead of continuously arresting them, we should investigate them and get to the heart of who's funding them. And if you can't do anything legally, then you could at least I've said before, Rebecca should have had a press conference detailing who's paying this, so that the public knows about the funders of it, or the city should have gone after them civilly. But this, to me, when I see this, I'm thinking the same thing. It doesn't solve the actual problem of the riots itself.
No, I agree with you. I mean, again, this should be handled. Like, are we saying that basically what we're saying, and it's a shame to say this because I kind of agree with the statement. Are our local governments in major metropolitan cities incompetent and they need assistance? Yeah. And that's basically what we're saying, is that the federal government needs to come in. Now, that to me is just complete micromanaging. And even if I believe the federal government was effective, I don't think that they're large enough to oversee all of these metropolitan police departments and cities and all of the nuanced issues that each one of these cities is facing. Now, the problems are very similar. They're very similar, but could you spread out nationally and do that? I think that is a very large undertaking. I don't think that's something that could be done. When I'm looking at it, it needs to be broken down by each city and state. And so it's a sad state of affairs that we're in, but we don't need more gaslighting about it. We need long-term solutions. A Pentagon plan to create a military reaction force for civil unrest. Okay, and we have that. It's called the Strategic Response Group. It's called the CRC in New York City. It's called a level 1, level 2, level 3 mobilization, right? Like that. We already have these plans, and each metropolitan police force already has units to quell these riots. Why weren't they able to? I mean, because in 2020, if you don't remember, Bill de Blasio and the cowards that worked underneath him changed the face of policing in the NYPD. For the first time in my career, I was told, as a lieutenant, that I'm not to make any arrests without the okay of legal. I never heard that in my life. I never heard that once in my life. And we were being told that it's great restraint and it's great to have people yell and scream in your face and get within 2 feet of you. I didn't let anybody do that. But when I didn't let anyone do that, I was also told to take my guys and go stand 3 blocks behind where everybody was, because I don't know how to do this. You never did this? I'm like, no, I've done this. I've just done this when we were the police, and we actually kept the public safe in New York City, and we didn't allow people to take over streets. So I've done this. I've never done this. I've never done what you're suggesting we do right now. I don't know what this is. I don't know why I'm here. I don't know what I'm being paid for. I don't know what the citizens of New York are paying us for. But, I mean, if this is what it is, then I support the Defund the Police movement, because we shouldn't be here then. If we're just going to watch people destroy New York City, I support Defund the Police then, right? Oh, what do I need you for? I need you to get a high salary and drive around in your cop car and watch people burn down New York City? I need to go watch chiefs and lieutenants and sergeants take knees? and pander to a crowd that's burning the city down and putting bold-faced lies. The police department's discriminatory and racist and hates black people and is murderous. I need to listen to this. You need to pay me top dollar. You need to pay me $120 an hour to stand here and listen to this and take a knee to them. No, I'm good. I'm good. That's not what we need. You know what? Then, and so we're not, the issue isn't that they don't have the resources. The issue is the people that are managing them. They're ran by sheep. They're ran by people holding them back or handcuffing them and intentionally allowing these things to get insane and crazy. And then when it gets so crazy and out of hand, they're like, all right, now you could go in. And now it's out of hand, right? And what's going to happen? Now violence has to be used. Force has to be used. Lawsuits are going to happen. Civilian complaints are going to happen. And then what? That same mayor that sent you in there, same mayor that's like, you got to put an end to this. I'm getting too much heat from the business community and my donors, and my election's coming up in 6 months. Now you guys need to go in there and do what you got to do. When it's all said and done, what are they going to do? I can't believe what I saw from that police department. And then they're going to settle with all the rioters and the paid agitators and the people that assaulted you and the people, I was laughing at that DOJ guy that threw the sandwich at the guy. Ridiculous. This guy works for the DOJ.
Yeah.
I thought we were cleaning up. I thought we were taking America back. No. Instead, me, Marlon, Sal, Ron, Rob, Eric, we're all still on the outside, right? And you got people like that on the inside. So how much have we cleaned up our agencies, right? Look at the NYPD. Why are me and Marlon not working again, Mr. President Trump? Oh, that's right, because John Shell and Kaz Daughtry are doing a great job. I got you. Don't worry about it. I got it.
Yeah, just to close this out, Commissioner McCarthy, Gary McCarthy, who is also a former superintendent of Chicago Police and former commissioner of Newark PD, he said a couple of weeks ago on the 10-4 Tavern about he spoke about the dangers of responding to protests with a militarized, basically having a militarized response to it. And a overly aggressive show of force, and how he thought that during Ferguson, one of the mistakes they made was to respond to have such a heavy response. And when I see this, I have to say that there's the danger of that happening here. If we have any protests that are getting out of hand, and now the feds are showing up with big guns and these like a militarized response. And I again, that just to close out, I don't think it solves the issue, and we need to have investigations into what's funding the agitators, who's funding it, and who's trying to turn peaceful exercise of constitutional rights into something that it isn't, and once we get to that, we can solve all these problems and prevent another Ferguson or another Minneapolis from happening.
Yeah. So Eric Dim, actually, he's on the chat. He says, "Good morning, everyone. I had to make an unexpected." He's lying to you guys, but he's naked in the woods in Alaska. He said, "I had to make an unexpected trip to the ER with a kidney stone. Enjoy the show today. This is perspective you won't get anywhere else." So Eric, please send us your diet so that we could all refrain from getting kidney stones. If you could list it out in the chat for all of us so we know what not to eat, we'll be good. Feel better, bro. I'll give you a buzz. I'll give you a buzz later on today when you're here. So poor Eric is in a lot of pain right now. I wasn't going to tell you guys, but that was up to him. So, but since he broke the news, that's he's keeled over in pain right now. So, poor bastard. So feel better, Eric. So, all right, let's move on to dog and pony shows, right? So dog and pony show is Eric Adams now. He's saying he wants the NYPD to have the ability to remove people who appear to be drug users on New York City streets. Now, I mean, the hypocrisy, first of all, that's never happening anyway. That's another smoke and mirror dog and pony show. I mean, when we talk about removing people that are IV drug users off the streets, we're talking about emotionally disturbed people. So what he's asking for what we already have, which is the ability to take people off the street that we feel is a danger to themselves or others. We already have that ability. NYPD has that ability. They can take you to the hospital. The hospital is going to release those people within hours and let them out on the street, and they're going to do nothing about it. So a failure of New York City government, a failure of the state government as well. So both him and Hochul have failed to do that for 3.5 years, over 3.5 years now. So now he's saying, oh, well, you know, he's trying to change the issue, like an emotionally disturbed person is not interchangeable with an IV drug user who's on the street falling over. You know, you all seen them where they're about to hit the ground and they somehow never hit the ground and they're just nodding out. I think we could all clearly articulate that those people are a danger to themselves and possibly others, and we should seek medical treatment for these people. So, but I find it so laughable at him doing it because, I mean, he's exasperated drug use, open drug use in New York City. Here's November of 21. He's on Stephen Colbert's show. What's that bag that he's handing Stephen Colbert? Right? What is that? This is from Greg Kelly. A barely coherent Eric Adams, incoming New York City mayor, gives Colbert a gift of weed. Marijuana. Yep. You know, right there. You know, drinking is legal. That doesn't mean people should get wasted all the time. He's worse than de Blasio. And I totally agree with Greg Kelly, and he's proven himself to be worse. You guys all remember him holding a press conference in Times Square where he was actually celebrating. He was celebrating the smell of marijuana. He's like, "Oh, it looks like people are using our new law. You know, it smells like it. Woo, you know, enjoy." And he was celebrating, and he celebrated the legalization of marijuana. He celebrated all that time and time again. Now, and again, with the legalization of marijuana, we see more instances of people going to the hospital for having mental issues, like breaking down over the use, overdoses, all this. This is Eric Adams consistently pushing for weed. Here's Eric Adams trying to tell you he's one of the people. Here he is.
I know what it is to buy a nickel bag and make 8 joints so mommy can feed herself. I know what it is to run numbers.
Yeah,
I know what it is to do all those things. So I'm comfortable among my folks.
He's comfortable around his folks as long as he has 30 or 40 armed NYPD officers surrounded by him. That's when he's comfortable around his folks. The only time he doesn't is when he's in his fancy private clubs, you know. And then even here, look at this. I think this one was the biggest disgrace of them all. Look at this. Here's Eric Adams for a drug seizure. Watch what he does. Ready for this? This is the mayor of New York City. Does that look like somebody? Does that look like somebody that isn't for open drug use? Consistently talks about it. Then when the business community pushes back on him and the rich push back on him, he changes his tune. He's like, oh, you know, I want to see if we could do something about this smell in New York City. No, you can't do anything about it, Eric, because this is what you asked for. This is what everyone told you was going to happen, and here it is. And now that you're getting a little pressure from the rich and famous, now you're like, I want to try to do something. So, again, another dog and pony show. Do you think that Eric Adams is going to get any legislation passed talking about what he wants to?
Yeah. Well, he's not, first of all, because I believe the assembly is in recess right now.
Exactly.
So and the bill doesn't have any sponsor in Albany. So it's like late stage theatrics, you know, that he sees how far he's down in the polls right now, and he's doing anything he can to try and raise his public image. Yeah. Again, we've said on this podcast that Eric Adams' platform is he's a moderate public safety mayor, you know, with police. He's bringing his police experience into City Hall, and the problem here for him is that it's, you know, we've had 4 years of him first first, Eric Adams 1.0 spent a lot of his time partying, okay? Partying and being unfocused, you know? So it's not a surprise that Eric Adams 2.0 keeps repeating the line, we gotta grind and stay focused. Well, when he repeats that line, is he telling us or is he telling himself that? Because he certainly wasn't doing that when he first got into office. And if he was doing that, maybe he wouldn't have to repeat it now as Eric Adams 2.0. So yeah, a lot of this again is him campaigning against Eric Adams 1.0. Okay, and that a lot of the things a lot of the things he's doing, like this campaign, by the way, is called the Anything Goes End Anything Goes campaign, and which is hilarious because you're saying we have an atmosphere of anything goes right now. Well, guess what? Who has been the mayor for the last 3.5 years? You know, it's Eric Adams. So, you know, it seems again like it almost seems like he wants to displace what's happened under a prior administration, while forgetting that he's the guy who's been in charge. I don't think this is going to make a dent in any of the quality of life issues that we have, or the overwhelming amounts of homeless people we have sleeping overnight in the subway system. It's not going to do a thing, because it's too little, and it's too late for him to try and rewrite history on his his campaign so far. It's again, it's a late stage theatrics, and by the way, again, even if he were to win re-election, when January comes, he's facing a budget crunch. And there's an article in the paper which actually talked about that. They talked about it specifically in the context of Mamdani and all his promises, that he's not going to have the money to do any of that. And that goes for Eric Adams too. Come January, there's a budget problem. And even if he wants to do what he's promising here, how is he going to fund it? And our point here has been the whole time that you have to get to the heart of these issues in New York City, because taxpayers are fleeing and the tax base is leaving, and you have a budget problem, and a lot of these issues are going to need money to fix it. So here we're seeing him trying to do late stage theater, and come January 1st, you're not going to have the money to do any of this. So.
No, yeah, it's a joke. Do you remember a few weeks ago he was talking about the mask ban too? Same thing. He was going to ban masks in New York City. 0 sponsors for that bill. When it's just media campaigns to try to get out of that like 6-7% that he has. When I'm looking at the mayoral election, it's an absolute joke. It's an absolute joke. So let me just break down the mayoral election for you, because I don't know if I've broken it down in like layman's terms for everybody. So it's going to be hard for a lot of you people to understand. It's going to be hard, but I'm going to break it down. Here's your choices. You have 3 choices for mayor, right? There's 5 candidates. There's 4 viable candidates that could actually become the mayor, right? But you only have 3 choices. This is your choice. You could vote for socialism. You could vote for Mamdani. You're going to get socialism. You could vote the same way that this country and New York City has been heading for the last 10 years. You could vote for incompetence, corruption, and far left progressive policies. And that would be, you vote for the 2 guys, either of the 2 guys that allowed themselves to get bullied out of their own party. And now they have to run as independents because they got bullied by these young socialists, Andrew Cuomo or Eric Adams, right? So there's your 2. Now your 3rd choice, you could vote for Republican, and you could vote for someone different than the person that instituted all of this garbage that you're dealing with. So I know it's hard for you Democrats that keep walking away, but yet you keep walking away in a circle. You never really get to the Republican. You just keep saying you're walking away, but you actually never really do. I know it's really hard for you people to understand, but there's 3 choices. Socialism, far left incompetence and corruption, or you vote the Republican. That's your choice, isn't it? That's your choice in New York City. You choose, right? I have no faith in you to choose properly, but you choose.
I want to point out that it's pretty curious that Adams is doing that now, because what did we see last week? We saw Cuomo with his new policing platform, okay, and his plan for the NYPD. So is it just a coincidence that Eric Adams announces this a week after Cuomo kind of seems to be trying to infringe on Eric Adams' whole public safety mayor profile? So I personally don't think it is, and I think this is too little, too late for him. And it's when he's saying this, it's meant for the media, not for me or you, because we all know if he were to win re-election again, not only does he have the problems of paying for all of it, and so does Cuomo, by the way, because Cuomo's plan is going to cost around $250 million. So not only are they going to have a money problem, but in the case of Eric Adams, he still needs a sponsor, and I just don't think he has the actual will to do any of this.
I mean, but even like, let's just say he even had a sponsor. Like, when could he get this bill passed? And maybe there was major support for it, and which there's not. But maybe there was, right? When's he getting it passed? 3 years from now?
Yeah,
4. You know, I mean, it's a joke. It's total gaslighting, total dog and pony show, and that's what we kind of see. That's what we kind of see. You know.
And where would he get the manpower to? You know, because you're gonna need either Department of Health personnel or the cops, or you're gonna need personnel for this. So where you gonna get it from?
No, yeah, that's the other problem. Why is nobody taking why is nobody taking a job? You know, I had an interesting conversation with a reporter yesterday. We were talking about Mondani, right? We're talking about, could morale actually get better under Mondani? And what are the failures of the de Blasio administration that if Mondani's elected, he can learn from? And I was like, the whole time I was like just talking about Eric Adams, because I mean, his administration was a continuation of the de Blasio administration. And honestly, it was a multiplication of the de Blasio administration. And at the end of the day, I'll say it again. The NYPD was a much better run organization under Bill de Blasio. New York City was much safer under Bill de Blasio. He was overall a better mayor than Eric Adams ever was, you know, and I hate to say it, but it's the truth. You know, maybe he's uglier than Eric Adams. Maybe he's not as likable as Eric Adams. He's definitely not as funny as Eric Adams. But like, the truth of the matter is the commie Bill de Blasio was a much better mayor than Eric Adams ever could be. Much better. And how am I saying that? The quality of life in New York City, the amount of jobs you had in New York City, the NYPD had zero problem recruiting. Zero. They had zero problem retaining officers. Zero. Everybody was staying 25, 30 years under de Blasio. Eric Adams destroyed the NYPD and destroyed New York City. So, and you know, when I laugh when people are like, oh, if Mondani gets elected, could it get better? I'm like, I can't say that it could get worse or whatever. It could always get worse, because I literally said there's no way it could get worse in New York City and New York State by having de Blasio and Cuomo. And then, bam, I just got smacked in my face like 3 months later with Hochul and Adams. I was like, I was wrong. So it could always get worse, but there's a lot of room for improvement, regardless who's the next mayor in the as far as it relates to the NYPD. A lot of room.
Yeah. The turning point was a scamdemic, you know, and instead of he should have came in and overruled all the stuff that de Blasio did with the scamdemic, but instead he continued it. And I even said back then that it was stupid, because it kind of he shot himself in the foot, you know. He was looking short term at these elites and and progressives who are all for that, and not looking at long term the damage it would have cost the city and cost his campaign, because he was the mayor then. So when with all these businesses that left and had to close, he's the one that's gonna take a lot of the blame. So to me, he had his chance and he blew it. And I don't feel, I don't feel sorry that he gets a lot more of the blame for the scamdemic than de Blasio did. I don't, because again, you had your chance to have right the ship then, but you didn't, because again, Eric Adams 1.0 was unfocused. He was too busy club hopping and partying when he got into office to be concerned with the fact that guys like me and John were being told we gotta leave, So
I missed a comment from Sethlaw while we were doing that subject. He said, John, how do you feel about Trump wanting a bounty on rebel leader in Haiti? Should he just focus on America? Again, he's the leader of the free world. I think that there should be bounties put on people. I was laughing at the bounty that was put on Maduro, though. I'm still waiting for Pam Bondi to wire me my money. She asked where he was located and any information. She would give a $50 million award. I think they since upped it to $70 million. So Pam, I'll take check or wire. Please send the money over. He's in the presidential palace in Venezuela. So, I gave you that information. I was one of the first people to tell you that. I was the first person to tell you that. And that is accurate information. So please forward my money. And again, do I think that we should be involved in world affairs? Yeah, we should. Obviously, we are the leader of the free world. Should we play dog and pony show and gaslight people on social media? No, we shouldn't. Should we put up fake bounties for $50 million on people? No, we shouldn't. So there's my information, Pam. I'm still waiting for my wire. Please send the money shortly. Thanks. And then, it to me, it's like a lot of this stuff. I don't really see a difference between the Democrat Party and the Republican Party. It's like, oh, who's better at making memes and who's better at gaslighting you? That's what I'm seeing, So, sorry I missed that question early. We got a lot of comments this morning. I'm back. I don't even know. I'm far back. I scrolled down past a few hundred comments and we're still only at 840. So 848. So, and it's 923 right now here. So, I don't know that I'm going to get to everyone's comments. So apologize for that, Seth Lowe. But yeah, I think, I think the other thing is just just getting back to New York. I mean, the guy just consistently flip-flops. So he celebrates the smell of weed in New York City. He does this for a long time, right? I mean, I showed you all the clips. Here's him the other day on the New York Post in their new Pod Force One. They're trying to be the finest unfiltered now by campaigning for Eric Adams. Not going to happen, people. But that podcast will fail miserably. But here you go.
Everywhere. And now that is outside our span of control.
Right.
The state laws created the pot laws. I think it should be relegated to certain areas that you could smoke marijuana, not throughout the entire street, because you still smell it everywhere. And I think that's one of the negative impacts of our cannabis law that the state government passed.
You see how he's putting the onus on the state government, but yet he was celebrating it. And this was a criticism I was giving from day one while they were passing this. And he was all for it. Nah, I'm just a negative Nelly, right-wing white supremacist, right? Can't listen to those people. Guy's a complete joke. So he's a complete failure of a mayor. I mean, and honestly, it's the same. That's what I'm saying. Whatever I see from Eric Adams, I also see from the Republicans. It's just like, who does it better? Who's doing the gaslighting better? So anything else on Eric Adams' hypocrisy?
No. But Kathy Hochul isn't even involved in this initiative of his, because in the papers it said that they were kind of surprised about it too. So again, it's late stage desperation on his part, to fix that image of his, because without that public safety mayor platform, he has nothing. And even then, you look at the way crime and quality of life has gone in the city, and you have to ask yourselves, how much public safety, how much of a concentration on public safety has he had, or how much success has he had in that realm?
He hasn't. It's just miraculous. Right before his election, crime just happens to spike down, and everyone's saying that they can't. Every time they go to the precinct to make a report or call 911, no reports are being taken. It's shocking. It's shocking. And I speak to people all the time, and they all tell me, I haven't heard a shot spotter in the 7-3, the 7-5, or any Brooklyn North or Bronx commands or heavy precincts in over a year. And miraculously, shooting incidents are down. And we're supposed to believe that? Same thing in Chicago. Brandon Johnson pulls down the shot spotters because they're racist, and shooting incidents miraculously drop 30%. It's like, wow, it must be magic.
Yeah, it's amazing how the same progressives who called for a shot spotter, now also say shot spotter is racist. Yeah, it's almost as though when it's inconvenient to them, they get rid of it, right? And also about that comment, John, I forgot who you said mentioned that comment, that question about Haiti. You guys should watch Redacted. They have a show on YouTube. John was on there 2 days ago, and he had a great segment on it about the DC takeover. But you guys should watch it. They also had a segment yesterday about Haiti, so it's very fascinating what's happening there. I don't like it personally, so.
Yeah, I don't really deep dive into international politics usually. I really stay focused New York City and sometimes nationally when it focuses on law enforcement. But like international, I don't look at much. I'll be honest with you, I just don't, because I'm not a big follower of the mainstream media, so I don't see that. But I have been, since going on Redacted, I have been watching them. I didn't know who they were originally. Marlon had told me a while back about Redacted, and I've been getting a lot of calls from all different media outlets to go on for a while now, and I just haven't been doing them. I just rather come on here and voice my opinions, and in a more nuanced, long form discussion. But so when I got the call from the producer to go on, I was almost about to say no, but I remembered Marlon's voice saying, "Oh, you should watch Redacted," and so I called him like, "Hey, this is Redacted?" And he was like, "Yeah," and I was like, all right, I'll do it. And then I went on and I started watching them, and I was like, oh, that's actually a pretty good show. It's definitely blurs the line a lot with of what's being reported in the media versus their opinion. Definitely a lot more nuanced than mainstream media, and they're reporting on the whole sphere of news. Like here, we're definitely centric around New York City politics. New York City politics and law enforcement. They're centered around mainstream media, but they're not mainstream media. They're reporting on all those topics with a lot more nuanced opinions, with a lot of very informed guests that blur the line. You know what I mean? That blur that line. So yeah, definitely check Redacted out. I think it's a really good show.
Yeah, and check out John's segment from 2 days ago too on it.
Yeah. They got a lot more followers than us though, so we gotta get up there. So, all right, this video comes out of the NYPD. It comes out from Toasties Official 2.0. I don't know who that is, but watch this. This is two NYPD cops trying to effect an arrest.
Yo, what's up with niggas? Yo, what's up with y'all? What's up with y'all niggas, yo? What's up with y'all? What's good with y'all, kid?
So I don't know what the arrest is for. We have no idea. It's somewhere in New York City. That's all we know. Could be the Bronx, could be Upper Manhattan, could be Brooklyn. We don't really know. Could even be parts of Queens. So they're obviously trying to effect an arrest. The whole entire neighborhood is now coming out to interfere in that arrest. You see the gentleman coming up with his phone. And again, we're going to show you the reason why it's important that these situations come to a close and come to a close quickly. Unfortunately, today, with the diaphragm law and the tactics that are being taught in the NYPD, there is no way to put this situation to a close quickly. In these situations, traditionally in the past, what we were taught is to get that person in handcuffs, call for help, get that person in handcuffs, and get out of there, because you're about to have a ride on your hands. So let's keep going.
Y'all niggas is demon. What are my mother? You, what a bro? What's up with y'all, nigga? Y'all niggas is bugging. Y'all niggas is bugging. What is wrong with you, yo? What's up with y'all? Y'all niggas is demon. What a bro. Fuck wrong with you, nigga? Y'all niggas is bugging. What a bro. What a bro. Yo, we awesome.
So they're clearly fighting with this guy. They're having a hard time getting him to the floor. The kid on the bottom, he definitely lets go of the hand, but he winds up getting him, right? He winds up, and then the kid on the bottom, he's like got him by the leg, and the kid on top pulls out his taser. Now, neither of them could see what's coming, and watch what comes. Everybody's starting to surround them. Boom, you see the guy coming from behind. Look, you see the white shirt starting to come, and he cracks the officer in the face. Sucker punch from behind. Hits him again. So 2 hits, 3 hits. Drops the officer to the floor who has a taser in his hand. And he runs away. And now, so the one officer is left on the floor. He's still holding on to the legs. And I mean, you know, I don't know, but I think the myth that black and brown youth are afraid of the police in New York City has been debunked. I think we could safely say that nobody's scared of the NYPD anymore.
Yeah. They used to be, but now we've had what, going on 15 years since De Blasio came in, and now 4 years of the Adams administration. But we're a long way off from like the Kelly years. And so these guys, you're looking at a generation of kids who grew up not fearing police or no longer respecting them. Now they're young adults. So, you know, back in the day, I mean, and it wasn't that long ago either. You know, in the early 2000s, guys would never. I mean, rarely would you see them come up to you and do that, because the sheer a moxie to come and do that is like unbelievable. You know, unbelievable. But instead, you see, these are issues that the job should be looking at. And instead of doing that, we have leadership who's busy at texting about, you know, tweeting about being at a Jonas Brothers concert, or, you know, instead of fixing the fundamental issues that are a problem for the NYPD. And in this case, one of those fundamental issues is the diaphragm law. You see them trying to get this guy's arms, and it clearly isn't working. Yeah. And as long as we have the diaphragm law, I've said it before, you need 5 cops to collar anybody. So really, it shouldn't be like 2 cops walking around or on patrol or in a RMP. You should really have 4 cops, because again, you can't put pressure on their upper body. So that puts you at a disadvantage in terms of trying to get them in handcuffs. And we're seeing it here. And instead of addressing these issues, what are we getting? It's really sad. Yeah.
No, and you know, and the thing, like today, by the way, we did a video on that Jacksonville cop, and he was just cleared again after all those videos. So he's completely clear. Like, he did nothing wrong by throwing those punches. But the fear of throwing punches, you know, like in this instance, you know, I mean, this is what happened. Like, no one's afraid. Like we're playing patty cake with these people. We're doing old man jujitsu we're not allowed to put pressure on a diaphragm, and these perps are playing, I'm going to take your head off.
Yeah.
You know, who's going to win that fight? I mean, it's a simple, like, if we set up, and you know what, this is actually a good idea. Maybe we should do this. We make one person a cop. We set up a fight. We make one person a cop. You can't put pressure on the diaphragm, and we don't really, we frown from throwing punches, and we throw you in there with someone that could do absolutely anything to you, and let's see who wins. And I guarantee you 99.9% of the time, I don't care how well trained the cop is, he's going to lose that fight. 90, because I mean, you're just basically handcuffing them. You see it here, like they're half in on a fight. They're not even, they're like a quarter. They have a quarter of the tools you need to fight. I could hold your arm, I could do this, I could do that, and this is a big dude. It's like, no, I guarantee if I crack them in the face twice, He would have gave me his hands. We'd be standing up, and I'd be able to see any threats coming from the side. You know what I mean? And it wouldn't be an issue. Or we drop him on the floor right away, and one of us is looking around, and we'd be able to defend from any other threats. You know, I mean, and we were able to stick our knee in his back and pull his arms back. I mean, this is the problem here. Is like we're saying, like, it's got to look good. It's got to look good, right? And that's Eric Adams. You remember a lot of stuff with Eric Adams doesn't look good. I don't like the way it looks, you know, and that's what these cops are up against, how it looks, you know. So I think, you know, I think it's a damn shame. You know, assaults against NYPD officers have skyrocketed under Eric Adams' administration. At the same time, they're telling you crime's down. How does that make sense to anybody? How does it make sense that cops are being assaulted at unprecedented rates, even past times when crime was through the roof? Cops are being assaulted like we've never seen before in all of history in New York City. And yet you're telling me crime's down? No, they're just assaulting the cops. It's like, oh, really? And you got people on there that buy it. You got the Manhattan Institute buying into this. You have mainstream reporters buying into this, that crime is down. Does that make sense logically in anyone's head? Because it doesn't to me.
Yeah. The other issue I see in this video is these guys have a lot more tools than we did on patrol. I never had a taser on patrol, you know. In fact, when I left the job, I still wasn't taser qualified, you know. I mean, I was no longer on patrol, but I still wasn't taser qualified. But these guys all have tasers, and yet, in how many of these videos do we see them reach for it at when it's too late? You know. Now, I'm not saying the taser is going to be 100% effective, because we know they, in a lot of times, they fail. But I'm saying though that, you know, you have a tool, that you have tools on your belt that you need to start using, you know, and not using when you're already in a tussle with this guy. Okay, I'm saying you got to put them to use so that you don't end up having to start rolling around in the middle of the street with him. Okay. But I think the problem again is that the job now is quantifying all force used, and the city is ready to call you a racist if you're working on say a black or brown neighborhood, a majority black or brown neighborhood, then naturally most of the people you arrest are going to be black and brown. But now when you're using force, you know, and you have to fill out those reports, and the job is quantifying, they're ready to call you a racist. Yeah. So the job has a lot of fundamental problems, but nobody is focused on it. You know, nobody in leadership positions are focused on it. You know, they're too busy doing the things that have nothing to do with the core mission of protecting the city and, you know, getting improving the product, so to speak. And that's a real shame. And because of that, we're getting more incidents like this. And about 2 weeks ago, there was an incident I noted it here on Monday. There was an incident in Times Square where we saw rookies who they were trying to break up a fight, and those rookies basically refused to put force on the perps. You know, refused to hold them and prevent them from continually trying to get back into the fight. And this is a major problem. Okay, if cops are afraid of going hands-on or using force, to prevent incidents from escalating, this is a problem, because what we're going to see is them getting hurt more and more, and we're seeing it here. The longer this fight goes on, is the greater the likelihood of the cop and even the perp himself getting hurt. Okay, so this is a major problem, and the job needs to get to the heart of the systematic issues that are at play in the NYPD.
No, I totally agree. And I agree with the statement about the taser. Like, I'm not a fan of the taser at all. I think it's ineffective. I don't think it works the majority of the time. But I'll tell you right now, if I thought it was effective and I'm going to use it, I'm going to use it early.
Yep.
You know, I'm not going to hesitate with it. I'm going to give you one warning. Put your hands behind your back or you're getting tased. That's it. No? Okay. The slightest hesitation. I'm not even putting my hands on you. Put your hands behind your back or you're getting tased. You want to see if I'm kidding? Put your hands behind your back. You want to see if I'm joking? And the minute there's any boop, I'm shooting that taser off. And then if it doesn't work, I'm going physical. I mean, like, what's the hesitation? You're allowed to use the taser, use it. You know, what are you getting into this scuffle where you're limited for? You know, and again, I think the taser works less than 50% of the time, but you could be close to the perp. Why are you struggling with someone physically if you're going to wind up tasering them anyway? Why are you that close? Why are you putting you in a position where you could possibly hook your partner? Right? No, listen, dude, we're not playing with you here. You're going to jail. So turn around. If you don't turn around, I'm going to shoot you with this taser. You want to see if I'm joking? I guarantee he's going to put his hands behind his back. If he doesn't, but you have to be serious and you have to mean it. And he has to know that you're going to pop him with that taser if he doesn't do it. He's got to know it. He's got to know you're not kidding. And you know how he knows you're not kidding? Because that's exactly what the hell you're going to do. And then you do that once, and the whole neighborhood's going to know that. Don't mess with this guy. He's going to tase you. That guy's going to tase you. That guy's going to tase you. He's not even going to wrestle with you. Don't do it. Word spreads quick. You're working in the same neighborhood over and over again. People need to know you. They need to understand that you're not a joke. Listen, dude, I don't know what happened. We're going to figure it back out at the precinct. I'm not fighting with you on the street tonight. I don't care. I'm not getting sweaty. It's hot out here. You know?
Yeah, I see. I'm sorry. I thought you
No. And just the last part, it's like we're not there to be tough guys either. It's like, oh, you might be able to beat me in a straight up fight, but I don't fight fair, bro. Don't worry about it. I'm going to have 30 people coming here, bro. I'm not fighting you fair. What are you kidding? You think I'm going to sweat for you? Hell out of here. Yeah, you might be able to kick my ass, but I don't fight fair, so don't worry. I'm part of the police department. You know, it's not about being tough. It's about being stern and authoritative. It's about people knowing that they don't have the option. We're not having this argument out here. Like, it's just not happening. You know, and when I was a kid and when I was a cop, I believed the cops and people believed me when I said things. Why? Because I followed through with what the hell I said I was going to do. I didn't dangle handcuffs in front of people's faces. If I told you don't do something, you're getting arrested, you're getting arrested. If I told you to stop or you're getting arrested and you don't stop, you're getting arrested. You know, and I expected that when I was a kid too. Now they don't believe you, bro. They think you guys are soft. They don't believe yous. They don't believe yous. They don't care.
Yeah. I see your comment in this, Samara. Samara said that the duty captain now has to do he has to fill out a TRI report. Now they didn't have this back when I was on patrol, huh? But I don't care. Okay,
if why he gets paid the big bucks.
Exactly. Captain's making over 200K. Okay, I'm sorry, he's gonna have to put in that work. Okay, if you as a cop have to put in the work and be a cop, okay, then I'm sorry, duty captain's gonna have to do that paperwork. Okay, and I see you also, Samara also mentioned this Kyle isn't getting prosecuted anyway. But well, the thing is, regardless of what the DA's office does, okay, your job is to be a cop. Okay, if you if you have PC and you have the grounds to throw somebody in cuffs, then you got to do your job. Okay, you got to do your job. Okay, and if the duty captain doesn't want to do his job or the DA's office doesn't want to do their job, okay, that's not. There's only, you have to do your part. Okay, and your part means being the cop on the street, and it means keeping the neighborhood safe, and it means establishing authority out there. Okay, and it doesn't matter whether they want to do their part or not. But me personally, if I'm not going out there and I'm putting you in cuffs, I'm sorry, I don't care what they do. I'm doing my job. Okay. And well, I get this. There's a lot of liability, and again, this is the issues that we talk about that the job needs to fix, and it's like then nobody's concerned with that. I personally don't understand why the job didn't challenge the diaphragm law. Okay, why the city didn't challenge the diaphragm law and take it as far as they can go, because that diaphragm law is I couldn't. I've arrested people by myself, people that were bigger than me, and the only way I was able to get him in cuffs is by putting the force of my body on the weight of my body on their upper body and using my free hands to get him in cuffs. And that I can't understand how a single cop could arrest anybody by themselves. I can't understand how two cops can, you know? So again, the job needs to fix that.
100%. You know, the other thing is you're out there, right? And you have rules that you have to abide by, right? When you utilize your taser, you have to call the duty captain. The duty captain has to do a response. You didn't make that rule. You didn't make that rule.
Facts.
You didn't put that captain in that position. The job put you in that position, and you have to follow through on what you need to do, right? You know, like I'm never for, oh yeah, throw everything on your boss or whatever. But when things need to go to them as per the rules and the procedures, it goes to them, dude. Like, you know what I mean? That's it. Like, you didn't create the patrol guide. You didn't create the procedure. It has to be followed through. I'm going to tell a quick story. So I'm a young sergeant. I get notified to cover in the 7-2, right? So I'm doing the 7-2 one night. CO's there. CO's like, do you want the desk or you want to go out? I said, like, I'll go out. You know, I know the 7-2 precinct. My grandmother owned a home there for years and years. I was always there when I was a kid, Sunset Park in Brooklyn. Very familiar with the neighborhood. I was like, cool. You know, I like to get out here and do patrol. So one of the jobs I get on patrol is I get a job where this civilian is like, hey, I'm just pulling out of my spot. And there's this drunk Mexican guy. I just watched him ride his bike. He wobbles and he falls and he cracks his head. And he starts convulsing, so I called 911. Now, I don't know that person didn't run them over, but I just by the way they were acting, I don't think that they did. There was no damage to the bike. I looked at the car. It clearly shows that this person's a witness. There's zero damage to the car. Person has no suspended license, no warrants, no nothing. I run the checks and I search and I look around the car to see if there's any damage that this person. It was really more of a concerned citizen who called 911, saved this guy's life. Anyway, the guy is transported to the hospital in serious condition and he's unidentified. So the NYPD had just changed its procedures from it being a accident investigation scene to a collision investigation. And they changed the word accident in the patrol guide to collisions, right? And they instituted this new policy that if someone is seriously injured on a bike without a car, that it will be considered an AIS scene. I'm sorry, a CIS scene, a collision investigation scene. Meaning I have to have highway collision investigation come and do a whole workup on this and treat it as a crime scene, right? So that's what I do. I have the person there. I take all their information. I have the car. There's no reason for me to hold them there. They wait there about 2 hours with me and highway never comes, right? Now I'm running around. I keep going back, but I have the crime scene there, right? So I just take the person's information. I have their phone number and everything. And I let them go on their way. They have no warrants. They have no suspended license. They reported this. The car's not scratched up. I did a proper investigation on my end. I held them there for 2 hours. CIS now comes to the scene, highway, and the lieutenant starts berating me that this isn't their job. They don't do this. And I let the person that ran this person over go. So I'm like, wait a minute, time out here. This is your job. I'm like, they just changed this in the patrol guide. This is your job. I'm like, you're required to do that. And if for some reason you're not, leave. I did my job. I notified you. You're going on the 61, bro. That's it. I don't care. Leave. So now he calls the duty captain and he tells the duty captain that I let the person that ran this guy over go. Again, there's zero damage on the bike. I have other witnesses other than just the car saying that this person was just weeble wobbling on the bike and fell. And this person was just in a spot and pulled away to try to, and then seen them and was like, oh shit, almost ran them over, stopped, called 911. So I had numerous witnesses, and yet the guy's so bent out of shape that he has to do his job that he has everyone against me. They even called IAB on me after the job. and said this, and then stuck the 7-2 ICO after me on this, right? Duty captain gets this scene, same thing. He's pissed at me too. I'm like, listen, I didn't write the patrol guy procedure. You guys could all leave. It says it here, right? This dude's a missing. This dude's likely to die in the hospital. And it says that this is a CIS scene, a collision investigation scene. Leave. I don't give a shit. I'm like, that's what it says. I didn't write the order. I'm doing my job. Why'd you let the person go? So I called the girl back up. I was like, could you do me a favor? Could you come back to the scene? She's like, yeah, no problem. She comes back to the scene. She lives there. They look at the car. They're like, the lieutenant's like, yeah, you're lucky. I was like, no, I'm not lucky. I'm not lucky at all. I did my job. Maybe it's time for you to do your job. And I left. And that's how, unfortunately, the reason I tell that story is because that's unfortunately the pushback you get when you notify people that they have to do, well, it's time to do their job. And, and that's why I say, when you take this job, police work will test your soul. It'll test your spine. And it'll test your faith of who you are. And you will know who you are, believe me. In a few weeks time, you're going to know the type of person you are and how well you can deal with adversity. Because if you're not willing to deal with that and stand up to ranks when they're 100% wrong and they're not giving you lawful orders, then this job's not for you, bro. If you're going to go out there and risk your life, and you're going to put the health of your safety of you, your partner, and the public because you're worried about some jerk off duty captain, this job's not for you. It's just not.
Yeah. I agree 100%. 100%. I've yet to see a rookie get out the academy who doesn't have that fire in him. The problem is that within a couple months, they can, that adversity, usually I say a lot of rookies, they give up, they become hairbags, so to speak. That hairbag, for those of you not in the NYPD lingo, it basically means you're that guy who just wants to come in and keep the seat warm and not do anything, And I see a lot of rookies, they get out of the academy and they think it's just the job is easy and don't realize that you have to deal with the adversity and a lot of the smaller details that make policing more complicated than it needs to be in the city. And that kind of, a lot of them, it kind of breaks their spirit, and a lot of them, they just give up on being that aggressive that cop that they thought they'd be in the academy, But you're right, John, that you guys who are still on the job, I keep saying this, some of y'all need to grow some balls, because I don't know what the scamdemic did to y'all. It like removed it, You don't speak up to the unions about what they're doing. You don't speak up. You don't ask questions of the job. You don't, I don't get it, If the job is asking you to do police work, I'm sorry. Again, the supervisors and people above you are going to have to do their job too. Okay. And if they don't do their job, then okay. Captain's going to be unhappy doing that TRI. I don't care. Okay. Yeah. I'm sorry. You did your job. Okay. What are they going to do to say that you didn't do your job? You weren't being the cop that the job trained you to become? No, you did your part. So I think you guys got to grow some balls, and because if you don't, you're feeling the consequences. You see daily, okay, and I see it when I see most of you guys walking around unhappy, okay, and again, this is impacting you. Okay, and it's going to impact your quality of job life, and it's going to impact you in your personal life too, because a lot of you are going to take that home with you. So again, you have to stand up to the adversity that you're facing, and you have to you have to be the cop that they trained you to be, and regardless of whether they're going to follow through on their part.
Yeah, 100%, dude. And like the longest story of that job is like I knew it was such an issue that after all the paperwork was done, I made copies of all of it. I made photocopies of all of it. And so when inspections and the ICO and everybody's calling me the next day, the paperwork was never put in. I'm like, are you effing kidding me? Like I brought it back to the desk. Like somebody threw it out. They went back to the precinct and threw the stuff out. Desk officer never got it put in. Cops never put it in. And whoever was on the next tour or maybe even highway went back there and threw it in the garbage. So they were coming after me like I never handled the scene properly. Like I didn't do all the stuff that they said I shouldn't have been doing. So it was hysterical, dude. I was like, but that's everything, dude. It's constantly. Greg Gordon asks, Greg, we got to get you on the podcast, dude. People should hear your story. He asked what year was that? I think it was 2012. I'm pretty sure it was 2012. And and by the way, that's how the majority of most jobs go down, right? Like you can't always just do your job and everything's just on you and the desk and your precinct. A lot of things in the NYPD requires you to go out to these other units, whether it's to get a number or it's to have them respond. Look, it is what it is. You didn't make it. Anyone has a problem with it, too effing bad. Too effing bad. That's just what it is. I don't care. And then, when you get up into the sergeant rank, forget about it. The majority of my day as an anti-crime cop and then as a sergeant, the majority of my day, and even as a lieutenant, was spent fighting with the internal people of the NYPD. I mean, out there, it's easy, bro. Like you're worried about people that don't like you out there. Like that was the least of my concerns. And I think the majority of people will tell you that the least of their concerns, that was the fun part. Going out in the street, dealing with the public, dealing with criminals, that's the fun part. The thing you're going to spend most of your day with is fighting the internal nonsense inside of the NYPD. Don't worry about that stuff. Don't worry about that stuff at all. Like you can't worry about what someone has to do or how they're going to feel or feel bad for what they have to do. You didn't put them in that situation. You were put in that situation. It's on you to advocate for yourself. It's on you. That's it. No one's going to do it for you. And again, if it goes bad or people start asking questions, all those people that told you don't worry about it, they're all going to be like, why didn't you do that? How come you didn't do that? I don't know why you didn't do that. They're throwing you under the bus, bro. So man up or woman up or whatever you got to do. Advocate for yourself. Advocate for what's right. Do what you're supposed to do on the jobs. Don't worry about it. Like you can't worry about that stuff when you're out there. You do what you got to do on the street, and then you go back and you do all the paperwork and you make all the notifications and you find what it says. Don't worry about who gets pissed at you because they're always going to get pissed at you. You can never alleviate that. Not everybody's going to like you. Trust me. A lot of people that didn't like me on that job. A lot of people love me on that job. A lot of people that didn't like me for no reason other than I did my job.
Yeah. I see KB in the chat says police work is easy. Dealing with the admin BS is the hard part. That's true. But I would say it's even easier when you're still on the streets, and it becomes harder when you get off the street and you get into like higher assignments or higher ranking assignments or administrative assignments even. It's easy on the street because if you're a proactive cop and you're taking police action on the street, you see the immediate. It's easier to see the immediate results of your hard work. And sure, if you're dealing with adversity and administrative BS, but you're gonna always deal with that. But at least here on the street, when you're taking action, you see the results of it. The captain has to do paperwork now, whatever, but you just brought in a gun or you just brought in a felony, whatever. You brought in something. It's just easier to see the results of your hard work on the street. So I think it's a lot easier to deal with the BS because you have something to show for all that adversity you're going to face. Whereas once you get into higher ranking assignments that involve even more administrative nonsense, it's that your work isn't immediately, it's not easy to immediately show the results of the work, so just something to think about.
No, 100%, dude. It's crazy stuff, man. I mean, like, nobody could really comment on it until it really you really just in there and the nuances of it and how each job goes and how each arrest is made and how you deal with that. Like it's wild. Try to get crime scene out, try to get ECT out, and you're required to have them out, and it's like it's a battle. It's a battle. I used to laugh when I was in IAB. I would get all these lieutenants that would try to bully me and be like, I'm a lieutenant. I'm like, I'm not asking you. I'm telling you, you have to go out to the scene. If you're not going to go out to the scene, let me know, because then I have to do what I have to do. Like, let me know, because I'm just going to call the commission and be like, yeah, we have a scene right now that's newsworthy that your IAB is required to go out to, and your lieutenant's telling me he's a lieutenant and he doesn't have to listen to what I say. Now, that make me a rat? No, it makes me I'm actually helping you. I'm telling you what you got to do, because it's going to come back and bite us all in the ass. And so, I would laugh. I'd be like, these people would call me flipping out. And then I'd get the inspector calling me. They'd run to I'm like, boss, I'm not apologizing to nobody. Like this, they got to go out. If they're not going to go out, let me know. I don't care. I get you're an inspector. I understand you're an inspector. I understand you're a captain. I understand you're a lieutenant. It has nothing to do with it. I didn't invent this procedure. I'm sitting here. This is what I'm told to do. These are the guidelines. You guys have been in IAB for a very long time. You should know this. You should know you need to go out to that scene. You have to go out to that scene. If you're not going to go, let me know. I need to know in the next 10 minutes. Just so if you can let me know, Inspector. And people hated me because of that. And I'm like, I don't care. Like, that's how I was on the street. That's how I was in IAB. That's how I was administratively. I'm not trying to be a hard ass. It is what it is. Like, you're making my job hard, and so I would always and I never backed and I never shied away from that, because at the end of the day, when the shit hits the fan, because it's gonna, and everything hits the fan, everything's a big deal, everything's an emergency. You could tell your story. Yeah, hey, listen, this is what happened. Yeah, they told me, she told me she's a lieutenant, and then she had her inspector call me, and he called me ripping me out, and I told him the same thing I told her, and I was respectful the whole time. What do you want me to tell you? So it's hysterical. Yeah, and Samara says no one listens to the guy. I get it, but you better. I just laugh, dude. I just laugh because, like incompetence around everywhere. There's just people in positions that shouldn't be in positions that they are. And they're usually the bigger problems of them all. So this poll comes out yesterday, and this should be an eye opener for everybody. So I don't know how good you guys could see this, but this is a Siena poll. This is a poll amongst conservatives. Obviously, leading the pack is Curtis Sliwa. I mean, I'm shocked that this poll is not at 99%, which always makes me question. And by the way, this is registered voters in New York City. In second place among conservatives is Zohran Mamdani. Second place, dude, 23%. So Curtis Sliwa, I think, I don't believe the accuracy of all these polls, but 100% Curtis Sliwa leads the pack. And I think a lot of Curtis Sliwa's numbers are being unreported. I actually think he's polling much higher than Andrew Cuomo is. That's my personal opinion. But they have Zohran Mamdani at 23% amongst conservatives, Andrew Cuomo at 18%, and Eric Adams at 9%. And honestly, when I look at it, I think that this poll is fairly accurate, because people are sick of the old guard. Like, this is what the options are. It's like you have to be pushing Curtis Sliwa at this point. The fact that I don't see Bob Holden, I don't see Vicky Palladino, I don't see Ina Vernikoff, I don't see David Carr, I don't see them full endorsements of Curtis Sliwa and out on the campaign trail with him every day is disgusting to me. It's disgusting to me, because this is the time for that a Republican could win. I told you your choices: socialism, corruption, incompetence, or you vote for the Republican. Those are your choices. And we could turn the ship around in New York City. You could turn the ship around in New York City voting for Sliwa. You cannot turn the ship around with Andrew Cuomo, Eric Adams, and you 100% aren't turning around with a Zohran Mamdani. So, I mean, like, it's insane. Like, what do you think about the legitimacy of this poll? And do you feel like this is a consensus amongst New York City voters?
I think Curtis Sliwa in the lead definitely is, you know. I think what the most interesting part of this is Zohan with 23%, because I think that says a lot about where things are right now. And I've said it before that you know, about the fourth turning and how a lot of what's going on is a generational fight. You know, the old guard is getting old and they're aging out of seats of power, although they don't want to leave. And we're seeing the case with you look at Congress, look at people like Pelosi or Dianne Feinstein, who died like what is it, maybe 3 months ago, 4 months ago. Yeah. So what we're seeing is like the old guard refuses to go, but it's like it's like to me, it seems like they'd rather settle with systematic corruption than to change things. And what we're seeing in that poll, I'm going to say that 23% is probably from younger conservatives. And I think younger people are so fed up with the way things are that they'd rather, you know, any other face but the old guard in place. And that again is shades of the fourth turning, you know. And it's saying that that there's a little bit of a nihilism, kind of even on the conservative side, you know, that young people are so fed up, you know, so fed up and so black-pilled on the situation that they want they'll take a guy like Zohan because he's a new face, yeah. And if you think about it, you look at the NYPD now. I noted on Monday about Ray Kelly's comment about Zohan, and I asked the question of where is Ray Kelly when all the things that have been happening in the department have happened. You know, why isn't we should go look on Twitter and see comments every day from Ray Kelly and Bratton about the situation in the NYPD, because I know if I was either one of them and I see the department being destroyed like this, I would have a major issue with it, you know. And yet they're both silent because you know you know, in the case of Bratton, I've noted how he's become like corporate Bratton, yeah, and no longer the blue collar Bratton 1.0 of the 90s. So to me, it seems like the old guard is clawing and scratching to remain in place, and they'd rather that systematic corruption be in place than change, which would kind of clear the deck and remove a lot of them from where they are right now. And again, you see the NYPD and the way things are going, and it, you know, seems that way to me. You look at the unions, you know, the unions are silent on the way things are right now, you know. So it's what we're seeing is a generational divide, and our generation isn't happy about the way things are, but the older generation, they want to go down with the ship, so to speak.
No, yeah, and then like on the other end of it, like I really question the motives of the national GOP here, and I even question the motives of Donald Trump. You know,
Yeah.
like I question the way he's weighed in on this election. I really do. I question, like, it's a slap in the face to every Republican in New York City and New York and conservative in New York City that Donald Trump has basically soft endorsed Eric Adams and then came out and soft endorsed Andrew Cuomo. It's a slap in the face. Why? Because he's actually splitting the vote and he's causing Zohran Mamdani to clearly win. And I'm like, when I'm watching it and I'm watching how the national GOP stays out of New York City and New York State politics, I really believe that they're trying to prop this kid up so they have somebody to campaign around. They have this evil enemy in New York City. I think they love Brandon Johnson, and I think they love Zohran Mamdani, and I think, I think that they want them to win. I think they're helping them to win. It's good fundraising efforts. And again, I don't think that they're even trying to win the seat of the governor in New York. I think they want Kathy Hochul there so they have someone to campaign around. And I think it's obvious because I think Elise Stefanik has zero shot of winning. I just do. I'm sorry. I don't love Mike Lawler. I like Mike Lawler. I don't love him. I don't agree with him on a lot of things. I think he's a little bit too far left for me. But I tell you right now, if I was going to run someone for governor in New York and I want to win and I want that seat and I want it to be Republican controlled, I'm running Mike Lawler. I'm not running Elise Stefanik. So, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, like, are we trying to win seats or are we campaigning? What do we do? Are we trying to win? Are we trying to help New York City, or are we trying to have somebody to campaign around? And what I see is that the national GOP has given up on New York a long time ago, and I think Trump has too. I honestly do. I think it's totally disgraceful that he hasn't came out in full support of the Republican back candidate. What does that say to every other person that runs on a Republican or conservative line? I think it's a slap in the face to every New Yorker that had to endure all the BS that we endured during his presidency and standing up for him, and then after his presidency and holding true to our values. I think it's a slap in the face to all of us. And so everyone that loves everything Trump does, I mean, answer that for me. How could a Republican president not support a Republican nominee for mayor? I don't get it.
Yeah, well, one of my fears has been, and I've mentioned it on an episode about a couple months ago, that America is going to become balkanized. That we're going to have Republicans are going to fortify their regional centers, their regional power bases, and they're going to forget about blue areas. They're going to try to isolate the blue areas, but they're just going to give up. Places like New York and Chicago and California, they're just going to give up, and they're going to get stronger in Texas and Florida and the southern states. And we're just going to be sacrificed, And I hate to say it, but I mean, we're only 8 months into this administration, but it's kind of looking like it, And again, I think that is one of the biggest problems in America. I think is the short-term self-interest. Now, I think that may work short-term, but if we don't solve these issues, eventually they grow and they fester, and it becomes a bigger problem, for the country, instead of dealing with it. And that short-term thinking is hurting America. Whereas you look at like countries like China, which they don't think short-term. They look 50 years down the road, and that's why they are where they are now. And whereas over here we have crumbling streets and crumbling infrastructure. And we have cities that flood anytime it rains hard, So it's not, this short-term thinking doesn't benefit us, and forgetting about New York City because you're gaining even more seats because Florida is almost completely red now, or Texas is almost completely red now. It is short-term thinking.
Yeah, no, it's no, I totally agree. Oh, and a lot of you guys are asking about Wednesday's episode. So we got to take it off of YouTube. And again, we're not supporting anything that anybody puts out there, right? We gave you the ability to learn about this product. I told you I'm very skeptical of it. So I mean, it couldn't have been on YouTube. The whole channel would have got taken down. So if you do want to watch that episode, it's on Rumble. It's on our Rumble channel. Go at Define It's Unfiltered on Rumble if you want to catch the rest of that Wednesday episode. But that Wednesday episode, not YouTube friendly. And, and again, we're not supportive we're not endorsing it. We're not telling you to use it. We're not telling you to contact anybody. We really don't know much about it at all. It was just an interesting conversation, interesting person. And, and so for any of you guys that have any further, there's really nothing further to talk about that. There's just certain things that could be spoke about on here. We could talk about issues, we could talk about stuff, but we can't really promote anything, and we weren't promoting it. Obviously, you could tell by my questions. And so just wanted to clear the air with that, because we got a lot of emails, and I got a lot of texts and DMs about that. So yeah, if you want to watch it, go over to at the Rumble or you go over to Rumble at the Finest Unfiltered. And again, the Finest Unfiltered is not endorsing anybody, any product, anything, So
yeah, I see Jack, one of our producers. Jack is he made a comment about I think the comment just disappeared. He made a comment about Generation X not being happy with the way things are. And I gotta say, yes, Generation X is frustrated by inflation, rising costs they want instant gratification in the age of social media. It's not Generation X, Jack. Generation X are kind of in their late 40s and 50s right now. In fact, I think Generation X is a little bit confused and a little silent, too silent, if you ask me. I think the ones who are upset right now are the millennials, and which are me and John's generation. We're early millennials, by the way. So we're not like the later ones who or the Zoomers, who the later one millennials kind of have traits like the Zoomers, more of the helicopter parenting and whatnot. But I think it's Generation X's that are the ones that are happy, and that's because if you look at the wealth gap, it's millennials that don't have homes, that have much less wealth when you compare it to like the baby boomers. So the Gen Z is even worse, Jack. It's even worse. I think they're the ones that are really unhappy. But I just don't know if they have the will to stand up to it, because I think, again, I said on the last episode that on the episode with Sal, I think it was with Sal, the Generation Z have never had rebellion. They've never grew up they've never known what rebellion is. To them, rebellion is protesting on a Friday night, which is protesting for some progressive big government cause. And to me, that's not rebellion. So just what I'm thinking on that.
No, I think I agree with you with that. I don't think what they're being told patriotism is ignoring the Constitution, and people buying it. You know what I mean? I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? Like, what do you like? I still laugh. I did a video, and I wasn't even smashing Trump, but I was just a little annoyed about how we went in on how we just went in and started bombing, and basically following suit with Israel. And I couldn't believe the amount of comments I had, and the amount of people that were texting and calling me, and they were all freaking out. Don't you dare ever criticize the president of the United States. What kind of patriot are you? And I was like, wait, weren't you criticizing Joe Biden for the last 4 years? So I'm allowed to criticize Democrats, but not Republicans. I'm like, yeah, bro. I see. I'm a little different. I'm American. I criticize everybody, right? I'm all for. There's a standard, and Republicans and Democrats need to hold to that standard. So I thought that was hysterical, dude. I totally did. So let's talk a little bit about. We're going a little long. I don't know that we could get to everything that we got. I'm telling you, these podcasts fly by, dude. They really do. The time just goes. But so Sal had recovered this yesterday on his show. He had Eric Sanders on. If any of you guys haven't got a chance to watch that, I recommend going to watch that show, because it was a great show. It was very informative. But basically, City and State does an article, and so they're talking about the hiring process of individuals, right? And they're saying that unlicensed psychologists perform assessments of NYPD candidates. City and State found uncredentialed psychologists handling the job under a professor's license exemption that the NYPD argues is valid. Now, attorney Eric Sanders is saying it's not, and he's pointing to the education law, and he's saying that these people are portraying themselves as psychiatrists and psychologists, and they're not licensed. And he's saying it's a crime, and he's saying that the psychological test to become a member of the NYPD is arbitrary, and the hiring process is arbitrary. Now, him and Pat Gordon have also made the assertion that it's racist against black, in particular, against black and brown people. I don't agree with that statement. I think 100% that it is arbitrary. I believe 100% it's arbitrary in the hiring process. And I think that at some points it can be used however they want to use it, whether they want to use it to disqualify black and brown candidates, or they want to use it to disqualify men, or they want to use it to disqualify white males. I think currently that's what it's being used at. I think if we look at the numbers, I think you're going to see, I think if we, the department wouldn't respond to this article at all, and they wouldn't give the demographic information, and they also wouldn't even comment that they have the demographic information, but we all know that they have the demographic information. And I guarantee that if we see the demographic information, you're going to see that disproportionately white males fail the psych at a higher rate than any other individual. And that is currently, I'm talking about the last few years. Now, it might be different if we go back in time a decade ago. It might be male blacks fail the psychological at a disproportionate rate. But in my opinion, I think that's what you're going to see. I could be wrong about it, but I know a lot of people that agree with me, and I'm saying it based upon the people I know that passed versus the people I know that were disqualified.
Yeah, I agree. I think and I think the NYPD has used the unlicensed psychologists as a way of like you said, of getting arbitrary, of making the process arbitrary. And I said online that I don't think this is a coincidence. I really don't, because as we've said before, that we've noted Tanya Meisenholder numerous times on here, and about the 30 for 30 initiative and DEI and the whole plan to re-engineer police department and get rid of masculinity. That's a fact. Okay, she said it herself, and it's very naive of us if we were to think that any of this is just coincidental. Okay, especially since Personnel Bureau, which oversees medical division and candidate assessment, works hand in hand with Strategic Initiatives Bureau for the long-term manpower, determining the long-term manpower needs of the department. Okay, and as we also noted in the past, Tanya Meisenholder initially came from the Strategic Initiatives Bureau, and then she went to Personnel Bureau. Okay. So I think it'd be naive of us to think that this is just coincidental. What I think is the job used, in my opinion, the job used unlicensed psychologists because they are academics. Okay, the unlicensed, basically, you're getting people with degrees and people who are supposed to be en route to being licensed. They're using them to make assessments on the psychological assessments on candidates. And in my opinion, I think the getting academics to do that is just perfect for the agenda, because academics rather than people who are licensed and have real world experience are better because they're more malleable. They're cheaper, and they're being academics. They probably they're more than likely going to be progressive, and they're going to align with the political agenda that's coming from Strategic Initiatives and from Personnel Bureau. So I don't think any of this is a coincidence, and I don't think Eric brought up a good point on Twitter yesterday about the 7-3 photo. And I don't think any of that is coincidental. Okay, the whole plan is to re-engineer police departments and to get rid of masculinity within police departments. So,
yeah, it was literally the mission of the diversity, equity, inclusion movement. They were literally demonizing male whites for the last 10 years, and I'm like, so you're telling me that Eric Adams is discriminatory against blacks when he's touting look how much chocolate is in this. I mean, like, I'm just, come on, man. But to say that the process has failed, yeah, absolutely. The process is just as arbitrary and capricious as who received the religious accommodation during COVID, right? Because what do we see? Everyone gets a religious accommodation approved to wear a beard. So Leviticus, the Old Testament, you get approved 100% of the times, but the New Testament, right, where it says those who are sick or in need of a doctor, and those who are not sick do not, right? That's no good. I could find Leviticus 100% of the time. So the job will approve you for the Old Testament, but the New Testament, they don't. So what does that say? Discriminatory against Christians, right? What does that show? Arbitrary and capricious, right? Because, and then the other thing of it is some people actually got approved that were Christians and others didn't. So they're like, oh, no, you're a real Christian. He's not. Marlon's not. John's not. This guy is. He wrote the same thing that Marlon and John wrote, but, they're not. And I'm not even saying that that's true, but I'm just like, there were brothers who wrote the same thing. I know guys that the whole unit wrote the same thing. They just changed their names and tax numbers. And some people got approved and some people didn't. So arbitrary and capricious, system completely broken. I broke down a rookie cop. His name's Charles Marley. And he had about 6 months on the job. He gets injured. They send him to diversity, equity, inclusion, right? And they put him in charge. They make him the investigator for the religious accommodations. Now, he testifies on the stand that he actually didn't investigate anything. He got a piece of paper that said yes or no, and he signed it. So he perjured himself. Was asked on the stand if he received any training about religious accommodations. Nope. He was asked on the stand if he had any training about New York State human rights law. Nope. So, I mean, it's a bigger problem. What we see that the NYPD feels that they could do whatever they want, whenever they want, and that's a problem. It's a big problem. And yes, I'm fully aware, Samara, that Christians believe in the Old Testament too. Or I was just making a point that if you put a religious accommodation in citing Leviticus and that you want to grow a beard, you will 100% of the time being approved. If you cite the New Testament where you say that you do not need to put something in your body that you do not want to put in there, it will not get approved. Only 6% of the time, right? We have a 100% approval rate. During COVID, we had a 6% approval rate. I'm just showing arbitrary and capricious. And then when we talk about the hiring process, I guarantee there were people that had very similar backgrounds, and one was deemed and gave very similar interviews, and one was deemed okay to go through the job, and one was deemed a psych issue. Arbitrary and capricious. And so not only did they destroy people's careers, Mikey G, but what they also did is they endangered the public, right? See, one, they lowered the headcount of the NYPD during the mandate. Two, when we talk about the psychological exam, they actually labeled you as you have an issue, right? So could potentially hurt your life and your career going further. Denied you employment that you actually should have been in. And then on the other end of it, they're putting people through that have no business holding a gun, no business with authority to be police officers, have no business. So it's, I think it's a larger issue that the NYPD is facing, and I think they're going to be on the hook for a lot. So I support the work of Eric Sanders and Pat Gordon and the rest of them. But I just want to be clear on what I support. I support that it's arbitrary. And if you're going to sit there and tell me that this job's been racist under this administration against blacks, I'm going to laugh right in your face because I'm going to show you everything that it's not.
Yeah. I bet Patrick Gordon is probably confused today. He doesn't know what to think. He because we agree with you, Patrick Gordon, but we disagree with you on your whole racial angle. There's room that we could both agree on, which is the NYPD's practice on using psychologists was wrong. Okay. And Eric Sanders makes a good point that the NYPD has a track record of reading into statutes to justify questionable practices. In this case, he's saying that the job is using Education Law 7605 to kind of justify having unlicensed psychologists. And I think the scamdemic kind of showed us how great the job is of kind of using gray areas to for their agenda. But I agree, the city is going to have a major issue with this one, and I think I think if the city, if people in legal NYPD legal or One Police Plaza are fuming right now about this, then I'm sorry, maybe you guys should be attending to all of these systematic problems before, okay, the lawyers get a hold of it. Okay, so maybe John Shell, instead of posting about his Jonas Brothers concerts or golf tournaments with Trump, maybe you should be looking at these issues before they hit the law firms of the city. But the other thing is, if I may for a quick second, I want to relate this to our prior conversations about captains being upset that they have to fill out a TRI. See, the problem is that in a lot of ways, like, nobody cares about these small issues until they become bigger issues. So for instance, like in that case, if captains were upset about having to do extra paperwork, maybe they should have brought up concerns to the union, so the union could work with the city, and they could make the entire process more efficient for everybody. But they don't, okay, because they find ways to maneuver in between the bureaucracy, and so they don't care if there's bureaucracy, that is more bureaucracy, because they find a cutout for themselves. And it's the same thing here. The NYPD didn't care that there was a problem there, because they found a gray area in the law that they manipulated for years, and they got away with it for years, until it's a problem now, because they're being called to the mat about the issues now. So again, this is why we always say we have to be consistent, and we have to get to the heart of all these problems, because they may not be your problem today, but eventually they're going to be those problems are going to land on your lap. So you can't just like go about your business and ignore it, because it's not your problem until it is your problem, and it will be your problem soon. So it's better to get it done yesterday,
Yeah. Sorry about that, Eric. We didn't explain. Eric Pistek asks, what is a TRI for us old dinosaurs? So a TRI report is a threat resistance injury report. And what the job did is it labeled out uses of force. If I just verbally approach you and then I touch you, but I don't really hurt you, it's a level 1, then a level 2, a level 3, and certain levels. And again, they changed it so many times that I don't even know what it is currently. Haven't studied for a test in a while, but basically at certain levels, like if you taser someone or use your asp or someone's injured, it's a notification to a duty captain, automatic notification to IAB. IAB makes it an automatic notification to CCRB. So you're basically self-reporting on yourself, even if it's so crazy that even if the perp like injures themselves, that you're still getting an IAB notification and a CCRB notification, or even if they come into your custody injured. So basically what it is building a profile of who uses force, who are those forceful, brutal cops, and so basically anyone that's on patrol, anyone that goes out there, they're going to self-generate hundreds, if not thousands, throughout their careers. And what the job does is use TRI reports, particularly in the boroughs, these threat resistance injury reports. And that's how they're determining who has a problem using force or who not. So it doesn't matter if you responded to 500 EDPs that month, and for 5 of those, you had a TRI report generated because either the perp was injured or you used your taser. You're going to be a TRI recidivist. So absolutely ridiculous. And you're going to have all these investigations lodged against you. So basically every time a TRI report is made and there is a notification to the duty captain, there's going to be a concurrent IAB investigation. There's going to be a concurrent inspections investigation, and a concurrent CCRB investigation, as well as you were investigated by the duty captain. Now, the borough and the commanding officer will all be looking at your TRI report as well. And, it's your fault if you get too many that month. It's like, really? Is that accurate? Or is it just that I was an active cop and I went to the majority of jobs and I just got unlucky where we had to use force? So things need to be documented, things need to be brought up, but again, this is just more documentation our own demise, and it's, in my opinion, a lot of it's improper, because you're looking at guys based upon numbers. You're not looking them based upon actually what happened in each particular incident. It's like, oh, you had five of those this month, there's something wrong with your guy there. It's like, well, no, actually he went to 5 really heavy-handed jobs, and he's more physical than the rest of them, and everybody else was scared, so he tried to handcuff the guy. So that's what a try, and does the try go on your CPI and force monitoring? So again, let me just back up one more time. So you're generating this threat resistance injury report. This will stay assigned to your tax number forever. The CCRB notification will stay on your record forever. The IAB notification will stay on your record forever. Every report that you're generating currently in the NYPD, unlike when we were cops, some of these reports were just monitored for the year and then disposed of after a year. These are all part of your digital profile, and they will stay with your record forever. So, it's honestly, as good as technology is, it's also bad, and sometimes it paints the wrong picture. So that's enough, my enough rant on tries. But anything on tries before we go on to the next topic?
No. It's just my whole point in that is that the job found a short-term way, like captains find short. The job finds short-term stopgap measures to get around all the bureaucracy, right? And the problem is those are short-term measures. Okay, so the captain getting upset at you, or you all knowing that the captain has to fill out paperwork is one of those ways that they kind of short-term solve the problem of not having to do extra paperwork. The problem is that the job should see that that's a long-term problem, just like the job should have seen that using Education Law 7605 to use unlicensed psychologists is going to be a long-term problem. But they didn't, because they found a short-term way of kind of using gray areas in that law to get around it. And now it's coming back to bite them in the ass.
Yeah, 100%. Again, it's short-term solutions, and without even foresight of what the long-term problems those are going to provide. There's not a lot of foreshadowing in the NYPD, unfortunately. I think most of it is, yeah, Chief, you're right, great job, Chief, instead of, hey, Chief, sounds awesome, but what about this, and this? And that stuff I don't think is happening anymore. There's no like independent thought, and you're not allowed to question anything anymore. So I was reading Back from the Brink. We had Professor Peter Moskos on here, and I forget exactly who it was, but I think it was Anemone. And he said we were allowed to think, and we were allowed to think on how, like, the commanding officers and like even as individual cops were allowed to think on how to prevent crime and how to bring crime down. And that's no longer the case. It's like, you're going to do what we tell you, and you're going to say great job, or you're out. Like Kaz always says, it's better to be at the table than to be on the menu. And if you question anything, if you give an opinion, if you give honest criticism, if you're doing something to help the job in the long term, guess what? You're on the menu. You're no longer at the table. So that's the environment that we put in there. So let's get a little bit more from the Crumbs crew. This came out in the Daily News yesterday. Juanita Holmes, the the commissioner of probation, New York City probation. So she was moved over there after that whole scandal broke with her having a women's conference, not inviting Keechant Sewell, and having Cardi B, a known felon, come and speak to women in the police academy. So she gets her award from Adams, and so she hired her niece to a senior post and pushed out a Department of Probation veteran who refused to back the hire. This is part of a pattern of alleged nepotism rankling the Department of Probation under Juanita Holmes. Oh my God, another appointment of Eric Adams, and we're talking about nepotism and hiring unqualified people. I can't believe, I'm shocked. I am shocked, people. How could we not save New York City from socialism and vote for more of this?
Yeah, yeah. Nepotism is the language of the Adams administration. You know, even with all that we've talked about and all the media has covered in the past, you'd think she would have the common sense not to do this. You know, not right now. But you know, I think she's exercised poor judgment as a leader on numerous occasions, and I said it online. You know that I met her once while doing the U.S. Open tennis detail, and she seemed like a nice lady. You know, she seemed like a nice lady, but I think she's a poor leader. You know, so nice lady, but her decision making is like her judgment is like terrible. You know. And I mean, for those of you who don't know, you know, there have been John noted the when she brought Cardi B to the Academy, but also she spent a ton of money on getting a vehicle outfitted for her as the probation commissioner, and that both that latter one was highlighted in an article back in November of 2024, I believe. But again, it's these decisions that are like, it's like, what are you doing? You know, why don't you have you make these poor calls when just at the moments when the media is already talking about these problems in government.
But again, who does that? What does that ultimately show? It shows the mismanagement of Eric Adams, that he put people that can't even stay quiet during a few months of his election. I mean, like, you can't stay quiet till November. You got to do dumb shit all the way up until here. You know, I noticed Kaz has been a little quiet lately. You know, I guess they don't like getting highlighted on the show on Fridays. But Kaz, we miss your videos, please. You know, I obviously didn't do much to get Eric Adams up in the polls, or else I think he'd still be doing them. So yeah, that comes out. Other thing that came out, Sanders put out Attorney Eric Sanders. He put out allegations about Chief Richie Taylor of Community Affairs allegation that he misused a police helicopter for a flyover for his daughter's birthday. I reshared that. I think I've been getting calls from a lot of different people saying, "Oh, it's slander. He's gonna get." Listen, do what you got to do, bro. I mean, like, there's an allegation out there. I shared what somebody put out there. Do what you got to do, bro. I'm definitely not going to frighten me, and nobody's slandering you. There's an allegation out there, just like there's an allegation out there about Chief Commissioner now, Juanita Holmes. But I find it funny, like, because I always say, it, like, and I've been saying it for years, like, if you put these people in private business, they fail. They're out of there. And she's actually one of them that left for a really high paying job. And she was like, oh my God, I got to do work and I got to be competent. And she ran right back to the NYPD. Mm-hmm. Why? Because I don't really think that these people work too hard. I don't. I question LePetri, but I don't question his competence level and his work ethic. I could see the work that he puts in, and I could see his competence in it. His integrity is what I question. But like, I'm not going to sit there for 1 second and say that you could move that guy into any business, and he's going to be an employee that you would want. I think that's a big highlight when you leave to go make a lot more money and you rush back to the NYPD. It's like, oh, no, I wasn't ready to actually have a real job. I just wanted to be in a job where everybody does everything for me and I could work out all day and I could hook up all my friends. I don't want to actually work, and then like that, and I think, I think that's, it's a big problem in the NYPD. As much as Shell tries to conflate our criticism of the leadership of the city and the NYPD with being anti-police, it's so not accurate, because I think their rank and file are doing a great job in all aspects, in all bureaus. Do they need improvement in areas? Yeah, absolutely. But overall, they're still continuing to hold the city together. But I really feel like they're led by incompetent sheep. Like, and again, I don't know who has what political standing, because it doesn't matter. If Mondani came in tomorrow and came in with some far left radical things, you'd see and he was willing to keep Shell and Kaz and people like them, not just to single them out, but they're just the names up there, or anybody else, they'll all be pushing this far left socialist narrative and pretending like it's all normal, and any criticism of it, you're anti-police. So mind you what's happening, watch what's happening.
Yeah, not too dissimilar from John Chell. Now openly MAGA guy. But I'm gonna say I'm surprised. Well, Kaz was he had a video about 12 hours ago with the fire department. Is that? But it wouldn't surprise me if he's going to be in Arizona this weekend. There's a big drone conference there. So if you're not seeing any chopped cheese videos this weekend, it's because Kaz is busy in Arizona on the drone conference. So, but yeah, the problem with nepotism and cronyism is that you're getting incompetent people in leadership positions. But again, I think that's all deliberate because Eric Adams wants to be he wants a centralized power. Okay, so he doesn't want any autonomy. He doesn't want any decision making other than coming from City Hall. And when you do have pushback from any of his commissioners, they're gonna find ways to shut you down or try and get rid of you, as we saw with Donlin and as we saw with Sewell, and to a little degree, I think, as we've seen with Tish, and these mysterious campaigns to kind of remove her, So I think none of that is coincidental. I think again, he wants it to be the Eric Adams show, regardless of where you're at.
Yeah. So last thing, and then let's get out of here. Speaking of Kaz, 26 Fed Plaza, somebody sent a white powdery substance, so they evacuate 26 Fed Plaza yesterday. Kaz shows up wearing another highly embroidered shirt, but it's a Parks Department shirt. Yeah. And this is the video from that incident. Look how happy he is that he gets to be the front and center guy. Look at this. Like this, he's in his glory right now. I don't think you could give him millions of dollars or surround him with young little white boys or women, whatever, excuse me. And I don't think you could offer him any. I think this is exactly what he wants to be doing, front and center in the camera. He's like a child. He's got his deputy mayor New York City Park shirt on, and he's leading the fire department and all of the federal agencies. So I don't know. It doesn't exude confidence to me, but let's just go to his initial reports on it. But watch how happy he is. He can't wait to get in front of that camera.
All right. Good. We're good? Good evening, everyone. My name is Kaz Daughtry. I'm the Deputy Mayor for Public Safety. I'm joined here tonight by the FBI Assistant Director in charge of the New York Field Office, Christopher Rea, who was leading this investigation, and the Acting Field Office Director for Immigration's Customs Enforcement for the New York Field Office, Judith Amadar, Federal Protective Service and Immigration Chief Jarek Isaac Wright, and the FDNY Commissioner Robert Tucker. We are here at 26 Federal Plaza, where just about around 4 p.m. today, envelopes containing an unidentified white powder was discovered on the 9th floor. First and foremost, I would like to ensure the public that there are no injuries at this time. Within minutes, the FDNY hazmat teams, along with EMS, NYPD Emergency Service Units, the Department of Environmental Protection, and the New York City Emergency Management were on the ground to ensure that safety of everyone inside and outside the building was taking place. We are also working side by side with our federal partners in the FBI, the Homeland Security Investigations, and Immigration's Customs Enforcement. Collaboration and partnership between city agencies and our federal partners is crucial in situations like this. This is what we trained for. That's why today's event was under control and almost immediately without incident. While we are fortunate that there are no reported injuries at this time, the investigation by the FBI is very much ongoing. We are awaiting the test results to determine the contents of the envelope, and we will keep the public updated as more information becomes available. With that, I'd like to thank all of our first responders and our federal partners for securing this scene quickly and professionally. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to the.
All right, enough of that. What'd you think about that, Marlon?
Again, what's the command structure of the city now? You know, I mean, like, why is Kaz there, not like the PC or like the chief of department or something? You know, I'm just totally confused by all of this. You know, and I wonder, like, who does the chief of ESU, like, who does he call first? Does he call Kaz? Does he call Chell? Does he call, the PC? I again, Kaz, the whole Kaz and this deputy mayor of public safety role is just confusing to me in terms of the command structure of the city. And I almost wish that Eric had the balls to, he clearly wants Kaz to have been a PC. Just do it already, just do it already, instead of having him there in this like I don't know what that role is, his shirt says the Parks Department, right? I'm just so confused by this.
And dude, his hat says Kaz.
Yeah,
like his hat. If you see the back of his hat, it says Kaz on it. It's like you realize you paid for this, right? In New York City, I'm with you, dude. I would love to see him as a police commissioner because honestly, that's exactly what Adams wants. Just do it. Just do it, bro. Let's see. I mean, this is what you're gonna get. Can't read from a piece of paper. No one even knows what he said. And when you go through it, no one has one question for him ever. He tries to take questions because no one ever asks him a question. Someone said, "Ask Kaz what chain of command means." I think they're referring to the Washington D.C. chief, the Washington Metro D.C. chief. They asked her what she said. What's that? It's like, you don't know a chain of command. That's good. So I think Kaz knows the chain of command, and what he's going to say is everything comes through me. I would love to hear that. I would love to hear that answer. And PB says, I'd love to hear what the Fed bosses think about Kaz. Yeah, but again, they're too ballless to even exhibit how they think about him. And same with the fire commissioner. I wouldn't entertain this kid at all. I would be standing on the other side of the press conference. I'd be like, it's like it's unbelievable. It really is.
I'm totally confused by it, and I look at it like when was the last sergeant's test given? Was it 3 years ago? Because Kaz has been in these roles for at least 3 years now. So my whole point about that is that's fine if you want to be a leader, but I mean, I don't understand why this guy never took the test. I mean, you had all the opportunity to.
No, he took the test. He just never failed. He was at an event recently, and he was saying how he took the test, how the amount of times, and how he failed, but he's still a leader.
Yeah. Like why the shortcuts? I mean, we've talked about this many times. You need to grow into that as especially if you had a long career as like just a cop. You got to grow into that leadership role, instead of finding shortcuts. So, considering all the free time he's had as Marjorie's driver, I just don't understand why you clearly because he clearly liked being able to give orders as Marjorie's proxy, right? Yeah. So why don't you just use your free time to take those tests, and you could have been at least lieutenant by now,
Because he couldn't pass the test, dude. He's an idiot. I mean, that's why.
I mean,
and then you look at a guy like Richie Taylor. He could pass the test. He's still an idiot because they shielded him from actually ever doing the job.
Yeah, good point.
You got a guy that's a chief, right? What do you think happens if the most low-level job happens in front of him? He has no idea what to do. A car accident. a domestic incident, an assault, you're going to have a chief looking around for a rookie with 6 months that's going to know more about what we do in the NYPD than an actual chief does. I mean, so, you know, when you look at Kaz, there's a lot of people like him. At least Kaz had a little bit of street experience as a cop, made a lot of arrests. I think he made over 300 arrests.
Yeah.
So he understands the arrest process, and I think that he would be a decent supervisor overseeing the arrest process. But then when you look at it, the dude, like, you know, what Corey was saying the other day, he can't testify in court. So then it's, is he really going to be a good supervisor? I don't think so. You know what I mean? Because I mean, if he's gonna teach people to be the kind of cop he was. You want that? I don't think so. I don't think New York City wants that. And then you get the guys like, you know, the 22 college chiefs or the 12 college chiefs, and they don't know anything about the job. You know, they don't know anything. Like they're sitting there commanding this presence. They love that they're the chief. They love the title. They love all the stuff, and they don't understand the processes of the NYPD. And again, if something happened, I'd have more faith in a kid with 6 months on the job than a Richie Taylor commanding that scene. I'm not, and I'm not trying to be stupid. I'm not. I don't care that you were calling around. I'm not trying to be stupid. I'm being dead honest. I'm being dead honest. Like, you know, and the same goes when you talk about Kaz. I'd rather a guy that was a patrol sergeant for 3 years command a scene than watch Kaz do it. I would. I think he's going to make better decisions. I think he's going to make a lot better decisions.
Yeah. That's why I actually feel sad for these guys, you know, because, you know, him, Madry, you know, even Adams, you guys had all the tools to have been good leaders, you know, and I'm like, Kaz, in another reality somewhere, Kaz could have been a great boss, you know. You have that street experience. You had the time to take the tests and grow into the role of leader with experience, and instead you took shortcuts, you know, and that those shortcuts really like harm your career, you know, and your skill as a leader, you know. So I think it's really, when the dust settles on all of this, I think it's really sad that you took shortcuts, and those shortcuts have not benefited you, you know. And you see it again with look at Taylor. Taylor has 26 college to his name, you know. I don't understand, you know.
Yeah. And Marlon saying, I thought this was unfiltered. I guess certain topics are taboo. No, all topics are on limit. You just can't talk about certain stuff on YouTube. We just cracked 27,000 followers on YouTube. I'm not going to get the channel taken down for bullshit. I'm just not, you know. It's you know, those conversations are up on Rumble. We had that conversation. It's just not going to stay on YouTube. If you don't like it, you know, I'm like, you know, I'm just not gonna, you know, we all put a lot of work into this podcast to help it grow, and we're not gonna destroy it because people want to come on here and get notoriety. You know what I mean? Like, sorry, like, you know, this goes out to a lot of different people. And again, like I said, and if you couldn't tell during the interview, I was skeptical of it. And again, we don't endorse products or anything like that. We don't do that, you know. Especially, you know, especially things that are still being studied, and there's not a lot of studies on, you know. Sorry, like, it is what it is. If you don't like it, too effing bad. That's what it is. You know, the last time I'm going to describe that, and then, you know, Corey put out a video yesterday. I can't get it because it's on YouTube or whatever, but he basically saying the unions are coming after him because of the comments he made about Adams on the show, and that he's getting a lot of heat about that. And he doesn't care. And so I just thought that was funny. I knew that was going to happen, actually. I knew that was going to be a big thing, that he came on the show, and then that I personally think he defended Eric Adams on a lot of issues. But he just said that he did a horrible job as the mayor, and I don't think anyone disagrees with that, you know. You know, the person that opened up for the Manhattan Institute and introduced Eric Adams gave this tall tale about what Eric Adams has done as the mayor. But I personally don't think he has one accomplishment in over 3 years. So I mean, and I thought Corey was just telling what he feels and giving his opinion. And too many people get butthurt about people giving opinions and having nuanced opinions, and then being brave enough to go out in the public and say it. And I'm like saying, well, isn't that what being a man is? Isn't that being a man? Oh yeah, no, I don't agree. I would just never say it. It's like, all right, yeah, good, okay. Is that a man? That's how you want to go, you know? And I like, you know, I mean, we're all here, very short time, my friends. So you know, I got a lot of things I got to get off my chest before I get out. You know, each day brings me some new topics. I went on an interview recently. I had to do an interview with somebody, and they asked me. It was like some opportunity that I'm not sure what I'm going to do or not do. But so I did the interview, and they asked me, what am I opinionated on? And I was like, everything. They were like, well, what do you have really strong opinions on? I was like, it depends what the day holds, but everything that I discuss in that day, I have very strong opinions about it. You know, like, I mean, and shouldn't we all? You know, and that doesn't mean we have to agree with each other, but I think we should all have pretty strong opinions.
Yeah. I think Corey should ask the unions where they were when the job took away his good guy letter, you know? And not to say that, you know, I'm not going to go into his past as a part of his Supreme team or whatnot, okay? But I think you got to give him credit for having overcome that and had a pretty good police career, you know, and even getting to the rank of inspector and a precinct commander. So the unions again are showing who they actually work for, and it ain't the cops on the street, you know. It's the guy in City Hall. Okay, so
yeah, I mean, totally. Anything else we missed? You know, I definitely got some unfortunate news about Captain Donnie Ramator. He passed away 2 days ago. 9/11 cancer. So, you know, we're praying for his family. And I just thought it was horrible. You know, young guy, very well-liked guy. I mean, I did not know Donnie personally, but I know he was a fan of the show. I know he listened to the show every day. And, you know, a lot of people, you know, were like giving me updates about him and asking if we could shout him out and stuff. And I was like, yeah, absolutely. And, you know, but I mean, from everything that I've heard, I mean, great dude, you know, young guy, handsome guy, world in front of him. You could tell he enjoyed life. And honestly, a lot of times, you know, somebody's a captain, you'll get some dumb comments. I got to be honest. We got thousands and thousands of comments. Everybody saying that what a great guy this guy is. And you know, they're all sad for the loss, people that worked for him. So, you know, I just want to, you know, again, just my condolences to the family and, you know, praying for Donnie here. So another life taken way too soon from 9/11.
Yeah. I didn't know him I didn't know him personally myself, but I think it's sad anytime you lose a young guy like that, you know, especially young guy who so many seem to love and appreciate. It's sad, you know, and my condolences to his family and to his colleagues. You know, it's again, it's tragic to lose somebody that young.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. All right, so anything else before we get out of here, Marlon? 2 hours, almost 3 hours long podcast today.
You know, had a brain fart, so I kind of forgot what I was gonna say, but yeah, that'll be it for now. Hope you guys have a great weekend, and yeah, we'll see you next week. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to be on Monday. I might not be. If I am, I'm gonna be in transit. I might jump on for a few minutes, but I think it should just be Marlon and Eric. Hopefully Eric's back and better. So we'll keep you guys updated. Wednesday, I'm definitely not going to be here. Probably be back on Friday. So yeah, got a lot of stuff going on next week. And I hope everybody has a great Friday, a great weekend, and let's keep rocking and rolling. And remember, we're going to leave you with this one part. Don't be a Richard.
There's a handful of retired officers that don't live in the state that have a lot to say about the dream team, as I like to call it. All of a sudden, they retire and have a master plan on how to fight crime, but nothing to contribute when they were here. They want to come back and be part of the dream team. What can I say?
Law enforcement professionals dedicate their lives to serving and protecting our community. But who's protecting their financial futures? That's where Laidlaw Blue comes in. Our wealth management platform is specifically designed for the law enforcement community. Laidlaw Blue is a division within Laidlaw Wealth Management, run by retired New York City detective John McDermott. His status as a retired detective uniquely positions him to establish a deep connection between Laidlaw Blue and the law enforcement community. Our platform is easy to use and provides a range of financial services, including investment management, retirement planning, and insurance solutions. With Laidlaw Blue, you can secure your financial future and provide for your loved ones. Our team of experienced financial advisors understands the unique challenges and opportunities that law enforcement professionals face. We're here to help you navigate the complexities of financial planning and achieve your goals. Laidlaw Blue. Secure your financial future today. Book a meeting using the QR code displayed or call us directly on 888 901 Blue. That's 888 901 Blue.